This is Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily with Andrew Hustler Paterson and Michael Remis.
Hey, what's going on, everyone? Welcome to another edition of Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Huss and Reem with you as we count down to a massive Central Division game tomorrow night here in the Peg between the chasing Dallas Stars and the first place Winnipeg Jets. Jets practice today. Ken Wiebe's going to join us a little bit later on with a full report of practice. We'll get Ken's thoughts on Luke Schen's debut, Brandon Tanev's add to the lineup, and of course, tomorrow's huge game against the Dallas Stars. We're also, and we've been working on this one for a long time, great to be welcoming in today, Winnipeg's own Olympic bronze medalist, Skylar Park. And for some of you wannabe Olympians or aspiring young athletes out there, let you know how you might be able to start that Olympic dream on the weekend with an event put on by the RBC, trying to find those Olympians, of course, with the RBC Training Ground program. And we'll check in on the Moose as well. A couple big-time injuries as of late. Parker Ford now out, along with Nikita Chibrikov. And I'm going to have to ask Daniel what it was like to call that fight between Bauer and Gallant earlier last weekend between those clubs. So we'll check out on the Moose. Lots of Jets talk. Skylar Park coming up. And we'll keep you abreast of what's happening at the Players' Championship as well. Lucas Glover on top of the leaderboard at 6 under through the morning round. Some of the top players in the world massacred at TPC Sawgrass today. So we'll stay on top of that. We will be paying attention to the feature group this afternoon. Scotty Scheffler, Rory McIlroy, along with Xander Schauffele playing together in the afternoon grouping. Just before we bring in Michael Remis, let's give a big shout out to the sponsors that make the show happen each and every day. Of course, our great partners at Princess Auto, Coolbet Canada, Aikens Lake Wilderness Lodge and Manitoba Battery, Rowley's Transfer, St. Vital Dental Center, Canadian Club, Wallace & Wallace, fansfirst.ca, F Apparel, Little Brown Jug, the Winnipeg Jets, Boston Pizza, Royal Sports. And we'll get to a why not question of the day for Not Autocorp over at Waverly and McGillivray. Let's get this going. Welcome to everybody in chat. Hit that thumbs up button if you haven't already. And make sure you're subscribed to the channel. Shout out to the podcast listeners. And welcome into Michael Remis. Remo, what's up?
I'm feeling good. It's getting biggest game of the year vibes coming up for tomorrow. Feels like a big showdown. Nice to have the Jets get a win, spend a couple days teeing this up here as they get ready for tomorrow. You know, snow slowly melting. Did have some today, but again, feels like playoff weather. And, you know, enjoying these couple days off here before tomorrow's game.
Hey, listen, we're going to get into some of the numbers of tomorrow night's game as well, and hear from a number of the Winnipeg Jets, including Brandon Tanev, who spoke yesterday after practice. But I just want to point out to folks that maybe you would just assume that this game on Friday night is already sold out. It's not. And we were going through the available ticketing inventory today. And lower bowl is pretty full, but there's a lot of seats right now in the upper bowl. So I would suggest to you folks that if you want to support the number one team in the league and you want to be there to get behind them in a game that has a lot on the line when it comes to the Jets' quest of winning the Central Division and winning the West, potentially the President's Trophy if that's something you care about, but most importantly, getting the second wild card team as opposed to seeing Dallas or Colorado. This would be a good day to get on over and grab a couple tickets for that game tonight. This is a game, Remis. Listen, we don't spend too much time talking about it. We know the challenges the club has had. We know what's happening right now with the economy and all that. I get it. But I have to say, if there was a game that a Jet fan was on the fence, maybe I should go to, tomorrow night against the Dallas Stars is that game.
Friday night against Dallas, in the playoff push for first in the Central. And, I know you want to get the big matchup, but at this point, the Jets have been in first all season long. It would be a huge letdown to falter here majorly to the point where you lose grasp of that after leading all year. It still stings, has the second half slide in 2019. Seems like the Jets have learned a number of lessons from that and from last year's playoffs or even the playoffs against Vegas. They seem ready to be able to bring their A game when they get to the first round, but first you have to get there, and they've had great season. I mean, they've been in first in December the last couple of years. It's amazing, but hanging on to it has been a problem. But the games are ramping up, more important, and you want to see them get that banner, that Central Division banner, and have it raising at Canada Life Center forever, because that's how long they last, Huss. So be very exciting tomorrow night. And here, do you want to get into some of these numbers? Because you were asking me before the show, what's the percentage of the Jets winning first if they win? Well, we pulled up our friends at moneypuck.com, Hustler, and you can go to the preview section of the game. And MoneyPuck says this is a fairly big game for the Jets. Maybe a bit of an understatement. And if they win, the odds of getting first in the division increase, according to MoneyPuck's math, 8.6% to 90.1% chance they win the division. That's if they win in regulation. If they lose in regulation, their chances go down 8.4. Go down. Oh, wait, what does that be? If they lose, they go down 11% to 70.5%. So they're sitting about 81% chance to get first right now. So this is again, fairly big game.
High leverage, man. Like it's 20%. Getting the win on Tuesday was massive for Winnipeg against New York to get back up to 8. But we cannot forget that the Dallas Stars have 2 games in hand. And the way Dallas is playing, you almost have to assume that they're going to get 3, probably 4 of those potential points. So in reality, the objects in the mirror are closer than they appear. But the Jets have an opportunity to really, put the firmest of firm grips on first place in the Central. There'll still be lots more work to be done, with the remaining games of the year. But with 2 head-to-head games against Dallas, one here in Winnipeg, one on the road in Dallas, this game tomorrow night is a massive game, a massive chance for the Winnipeg Jets. And from the Dallas side of things, I mean, they're coming in here after being off all week, preparing for Winnipeg, knowing that if they can win this game, it is race on in the Central Division. So another reason why it would be great to see that barn packed and people ready to come with a bit of a playoff preview, not only of the potential matchup later on in the second round, as long as the Jets do get that win, but a playoff preview of what Winnipeg and Winnipeg fans can bring to the table. I'm just looking tomorrow. I mean, a few people saying, I'd love to be at the game. Where is it? Adam Douglas made a great point. And really good deals for season ticket holders. And I would imagine this might be other package holders as well. If you didn't have this one in your package, or when you split the games up, you didn't get this one, if you log in, I'm pretty sure you can get your season ticket price for additional tickets. So it might be a good time to call up a few friends that maybe you'd like to go to a game with and say, hey, I can get a good deal on these seats. Let's pick them up and let's make it happen and get out there tomorrow. So again, I mean, I don't want to spend too much time. We know that, people's disposable income might not be what it was a few years ago, and there are real life challenges. I totally get it. But we have seen some really good crowds lately. It would be a bit of a head scratcher, I think, if this one wasn't full for the game tomorrow night. So if you're listening to this and you don't have a ticket for tomorrow night's game, would love to see you out there. I will be there in the Upper Bowl. I cannot wait for this game tomorrow night. And you know what, Remo, as far as the matchup goes, and we'll dive into this a bit more with Ken, as great as Dallas is and as loaded as they are with the additions that they've made, and let's face it, it wasn't just the deadline. I mean, they added Grandland, they added CC. Now they've got Mikko Rantanen, although Logan Stankoven is gone. Miro Heiskanen is still out. That's a huge loss on their blue line. And Rupi Hintz, arguably their best center, or I would definitely say their best center, took that puck in the face in Vancouver on Sunday night and is out for a week. So it does look like Rupi Hintz won't be there. So this is an opportunity, I think, for the Jets. They'll feel like they have to take advantage of. And if they can really focus in on just locking down first place and then maybe giving Connor Hellebuck a few extra nights off if he so desires, and get ready for that first round against a wild card team as opposed to having to worry about the new and improved Stars or Avalanche in the first round of the playoffs.
Yeah, just an update on Rupe Hintz. He's going to skate today and tomorrow in Dallas, and then after that, they'll see if he's an option for Sunday. So they've ruled him out already for tomorrow's game, and we'll get more on the Stars with Sean Shapiro. He covers the Stars, and talk with him tomorrow about their season and how Mikko Rantanen's fitting in, and of course teeing up the game. So yeah, a lot of talk, and it's coming to the players, media there yesterday and today saying, you guys feeling any added pressure for this one? And all the talk has been, no, it's we're going to prepare like we've prepared all season. But I mean, I don't know how much they look at the standings, but you have to know, hey, it's going to be I'm sure a big atmosphere with the crowd and big importance in terms of the standings, trying to prevent a team from catching you.
We'll get some updates from Wiebe when he joins us a little later on. But no Nikolai Ehlers at practice today, and no Neil Pionk at practice today. And Scott Arniel has said that they'll see how those players feel tomorrow. I'm sure both of them will desperately want to be in the lineup. For Pionk, if Pionk, and as I said, I guess we'll get into this a bit more. I mean, I didn't see if there were any pairings. I mean, you would think that if any of the top six are out of the lineup, Stan probably pops back in. I do wonder how they would work that, though. With the extra left shot guy going in if a right shot guy is going out. Do you have, Hayden Fleury play with Sandberg and then Stan come in with Shen? I'm not sure. I know people, listen, Pionk's had a great season, a big bounce back from the last couple of years. I know there's lots of talk about what would make sense if he's going to get an extension or not. That's for another day. He's a very important player on this team right now with big minutes on a pairing that has been very successful together. We saw what it was like without Dylan Sandberg. I think on the same side, we'd see what it's like without Neil Pionk, and hopefully that won't be the case tomorrow. I will say this, Pionk is such a gamer, Reem. If he is able to go, he will go. I mean, he was dealing with stuff all last year, barely missed games, and wouldn't really even talk about it afterwards, not making any excuses. So fingers crossed he'll be able to go. And I mean, listen, Nikolai Ehlers, especially with, and we can get into this a little bit, since the Four Nations break, the first line has not really looked or played or produced the way they had in the first 2/3 of the season. And this team will go as far as that line and those top players take them. But it really has been Ehlers and Perfetti and Nemetsnikov in particularly, and certainly on Friday, the fourth line that was generating the majority of the offensive looks. And it wasn't great for that top line. So, I mean, if you take Nikolai Ehlers out, it puts even more pressure on the top line to maybe get back to the high-flying ways that we saw for the majority of the season before the break.
Yeah, just a practice update. So yesterday it was Pionk, Appleton, DeMello, and Ehlers, and Marty Johnson said they were all for maintenance. And as you mentioned, Pionk and Ehlers not skating today. As for what that would mean for the power play, Murat Atesh reporting on X that Perfetti taking Ehlers' spot on power play 1, and it's Colin Miller in Pionk's spot on power play 2. So if Neil Pionk were to miss tomorrow, I would think Colin Miller would be there. Does he slide in with Sandberg? Do they move up Fleury and he goes with Shen? I would think they want to keep Shen having the same partner, but we'll see. I mean, Pionk, he's a gamer. He plays, so I'm not going to jump to any conclusions here going forward.
Miller time. Odds the Lowry line starts the game Friday, assuming they are to set the tone. Lowry's line often does because, of course, the visitors are throwing out usually their top line to start off, and that's usually the matchup that Scott Arniel wants. But I guess we'll find out and discuss that a little bit later on. So a full practice report coming up with Ken. The latest on the team as they prepare for the Dallas Stars tomorrow night. We're also going to talk Moose with Dan Fink a little later on, and we'll get into what it's like to be an Olympic medalist with Skylar Park, who's had a very busy few months since being on the podium earlier this year. Listen, just before we get to Brandon Tanev, as well as some really interesting stuff from Marty Johnson yesterday, who took Scott Arniel's role at the microphone. Let me thank our friends at Rolly's Transfer for their great support of Winnipeg Sports Talk. If you've got a move planned in 2025, give our friends at Rolly's a call. They are family owned and operated for over 60 years here in Winnipeg, and the most trusted name in moving in Manitoba. What you're going to want to do is head on over to their website at rollys.com and click on Request an Estimate, top right corner. Put in the promo code WST for a special discount on moving services and moving supplies for Winnipeg Sports Talk listeners. And then all you got to do is let them know where you are moving to and from, when you're planning on moving, and how much needs to be moved. And the friendly staff at Rollies will turn it around real quick with a great quote for you and get you locked in to receive the white glove treatment on your way to the next destination. If you're moving this year, make it a move with Rollies, the most trusted name in moving in Manitoba for over 60 years. Find out more or request an estimate today over at Rollies.com. Nice outside today, getting a little warmer, apparently cooling down for a couple days. But listen, we're already into some spring cleaning. You might need some spring cleaning for your teeth. Has it been a minute since you've been to the dentist? Well, if it has been, why don't you give our friends at St. Vital Dental Center a call, 167 St. Anne's, free parking in the background, beautiful facility. Our pal Dr. Terry, who of course gave us those tickets to give away on Tuesday night, and his amazing staff are waiting for you. And they're doing customers and clients from 6 months all the way up to 99 plus, and have literally everything you could need under the sun when it comes to dental, including checkups, cavities, fillings, root canals, bridges, and of course, even dental implants. Find out more online at stvitaldental.ca. Give them a phone call or pop on into 167 St. Anne's and tell them the boys at Winnipeg Sports Talk sent you. Time for that spring cleaning for your grill. St. Vital Dental Center will be able to take care of you for that. And hey, shout out to Donnie and the gang at Manitoba Battery, powering Manitobans as the local option for the best prices in batteries all winter long to get us through this winter. Now we'll start getting into some of those batteries for some of the more fun stuff. ATVs, scooters, boats, but winter's not done yet. So whether it's for your car, your truck, or something you can't wait to get into, get the best price on the battery and the best customer service as well, as Manitoba Battery will deliver it all to you for free anywhere inside the perimeter with any purchase over $60. It's just that easy. Pop by and see them, Logan Avenue, Dovercourt Drive, their new location on the south side of the city, or find out more, order online at manitobabattery.com. All right, Brandon Tanev is back with the Winnipeg Jets. He's not in the Fairmont. He's not in the Delta. He's living with Mark Scheifele, along with Luke Schenn. Of course, that was a topic when Brandon met the media yesterday. Here's what Tanev had to say about his current living arrangement with Mark Scheifele of the Jets.
Landlord's been great. Obviously Mark and I are really good friends, and for him to open up his house to Luke and I is awesome. That's why he's such a good teammate, and we're having fun. So it's one of those things where, we're around each other. It's good to be back in a city you're very familiar with, and also at a good friend's house.
Now, is there a fight for who has control over the TV and who decides on the menu? Because we know Mark eats very healthy.
We're guests at his household, so he makes all the decisions. No, he's always asking us whether we want certain things or stuff, and that's how hospitable he is. So for him to open up his house is something awesome for Luke and I.
Those guys, Remis, are high level pro athletes, so they're probably used to maybe not quite the level of health and nutrition that Mark Scheifele does. That would be, I'm just trying to imagine myself being put in that situation, staying with someone for 2 or 3 days, knowing that let's just say what is on Mark Scheifele's trading table probably hasn't been on mine very often for a little bit. It would be interesting to get an idea of what goes into those guys over the course of the day. And I think he's got a private chef or something that makes it all up for them. So I'm sure Brandon Tanev and Luke Schenn are well taken care of. Of course, Brandon Tanev got a real nice welcome back on Tuesday night. Here's what he had to say about his first game back in the Peg in front of the home fans.
Yeah, like I've said many times before, I think the best fans in the NHL are in Winnipeg, so it was great to be back on home ice in front of them, and the building's always rocking, so it's a great place to play.
Are you surprised at how quickly the chemistry has been developed between yourself and Morgan and Alex?
Well, I think it's easy when you're playing with good players. They make things easy for me, and talking and communicating. I think that's the big thing when you go out there and you're playing with new guys that you haven't played with before. It's being in the right spots, doing the little things, but also talking and making things easy for one another.
All right, so this is Brandon Tanev on being back, and of course the line that he's on. He was also asked just to compare the systems and how this team plays to his last stint here in the Peg.
I'd say a little bit, but the coaching staff has gotten me up to speed pretty quickly. It's one of those things where you kind of wanted to jump in right away and get up to speed, and they've been great in doing that and helped me along. And if I have any questions, their door's always open, and same with the teammates, the guys in the team as well.
All right, so there is Brandon Tanev on the system. And one more, you can't talk to anyone around the Jets this week without talking about Friday night and the visit from the second-place Dallas Stars, who are chasing Winnipeg.
Yeah, that's a really good hockey team, and they, of course, made some moves at the deadline. But I think no matter what happens, there's a lot of good hockey teams across the league, no matter who you're playing. And I think it's all about what you do and prepare yourself to get to the game. And I think this group is doing a good job of that, and we're excited to play them here in the next coming days. But I think we just focus on ourselves.
Now, Reem, just before we move on to Marty Johnson, a new team for Brandon Tanev means a new headshot. And Tanev of the National Hockey League probably has the most famous / notorious headshots because of the wide eyes that he's known for sometimes on the ice have been a part of the headshots. And credit to the Jets social media staff for capturing Brandon Tanev's photo shoot for his headshot as he returned to the Jets.
Yeah, here it is. And the Jets put out this video. So here is getting the headshot done. They do 5 flashes. Guy doesn't blink one time and just walks away. Isn't that I don't care what you do on the ice. You can have a crazy slap shot or lay a big hit. This is the most impressive thing we'll see from a Jet player all season, not blinking. Look at me. Every single picture, Huss, I'm in, I'm blinking. So to do that with 5 flashes, the wide eyes, I don't know if I could sit in there and do that, Huss. It would be pretty wild. Yeah, is that you doing the Tanev?
I'm just trying to see how long I could do it. For.
I gotta pull up the headshot. I showed the the one from Seattle, and I was like, thing's kind of played out, but he's really committing to the bit here.
No, he's leaned into it. I mean, this is Brandon Tanev. I mean, once he did it once, he's just kept doing it. And he has the most recognizable headshot in the National Hockey League. And it's great to have Brandon Tanev back there.
like they put the NHL tweeted this out, and like I saw like people maybe who don't really have an interest in hockey like retweeting. Like, this is famous. Like, you're getting marketing exposure when you have a Brandon Tanev headshot on your team. So I don't know where he's going to end up after this season, but I mean, think of all the likes you're going to get when you tweet out his headshot.
Oh, I wouldn't be surprised if he sticks around. We've seen that happen with a few players that have gone and come back. And first things first, though, beat the Dallas Stars tomorrow night, get first place, and then get ready for the playoffs. Marty Johnson spoke yesterday. We don't hear from Marty a lot, but he had some really interesting insight to the current hockey club. And listen, coming out of Tuesday night, we were all yesterday on the program. If you caught it or if you missed it, you can go back. We spent a lot of time talking about Cole Perfetti and just how much he's grown from a year ago when he was at times in the press box to right now, first star on Tuesday night, and being a huge part of that combination with Nikolai Ehlers and Vlad Nemestikov in the Winnipeg Jets top six. Marty Johnson was asked to, just for his perspective on Cole Perfetti's recent play and the confidence that he's developed on the ice.
Yeah, well, I think that he was in a position maybe a week ago where he was getting a lot of chances, and it was just one of those things where the puck was bouncing over his stick, and he wasn't producing, but he was getting the chances. And I think it's going through those times in a season and times in your career where you have to continue to believe in yourself. And I think that, he got a good balance, obviously, to get that goal on the road. And then obviously you saw the plays he made last night. So he's always believed in himself. And I think as he's grown in his career, he's gotten stronger physically. I think we saw that last night. There was a rush that he had, but it really started on the back check. If you saw it, he really gained ground, came back, helped us defend, and then ended up getting a scoring chance out of it. And I think that that's a good indication of Cole Perfetti now. He can contribute on both ends of the rink, and he's done a good job with that. And, point production is something that's going to come and go with all the players. There's going to be times when you don't get the bounces, but you have to continue to play your game. And I think that he really buys into that.
Remis, that was a great quote from Marty, kind of into just the development of Perfetti. And, I got thinking about this last night. There's been a lot of players, maybe not drafted as high as Cole, but guys that have come in with really good offensive pedigrees. Maybe he's got a special way of thinking and seeing the game. But the bottom line is that the messages, and this goes back multiple coaches, Paul Maurice as well, that have tried to get out of young players improvements in the areas that frankly are a little bit more difficult, that you got to work a little bit harder, that you have to change your game a little bit to survive and be successful in the NHL. And, more and more game after game, we're seeing Cole Perfetti, the results of the work that he's done, and the way that he has listened and taken everything to heart and turned into a player that is very productive right now and that can hang with some of the bigger, tougher, at times faster players in the league and still be a difference maker like he was Tuesday night.
Yeah, and it goes back to that game where he said he wanted to be a prick to play against. And it's one thing to, come out and say that, another thing to put it into action and get the results. 15 points for Cole in his last 17 games. And you look at his development over the last couple of years. I mean, his first full season, 30 points in 51 games. Last year, 38 points in 71 games. And this year, and you're getting, his ice time is up from last year, 40 points in 66 games. So he's already passed career high in assists, career high in points. And he seems to have, overcame that second half slump that he had last year to a productive second half. And he's a guy that you can certainly be counted on and really boosted that second line. And the last couple of games, we haven't seen, the best games at 5-on-5 from the top line, but the Ehlers, Nemestikov, Perfetti line, has looked pretty solid. And, there's that one play, he didn't score on it, but, the sea just parted for him, and he really took the puck to the net. He actually has scored a lot of his goals from in tight as well. Just finding,
and that's where the goals happen in the National Hockey League.
He finds a way to get to the right spot and has banged it in. But we've also seen, one-timers, and we've seen some nice shots from him as well from further out. But he's going to the hard areas. He's defending well, and he's certainly been getting the results.
Yeah, I mean, listen, and I've said this before. I mean, early on in the season, it just seemed like Cole had more fight to his game and more confidence in those battles, and it's working. Marty was asked, though, if Cole has actually gotten faster this year.
I feel that he's gotten stronger, so I think anytime you get that power, inherently you should increase your speed. And I had the privilege of working with him when we had the COVID year, and he was essentially a junior player in the American League, and it's a different player now. There's no question in terms of his strength, his ability to get pucks out, win battles, and also get away from players. So what we saw last night was a good example of the work he's put in.
All right, of course, Cole Perfetti's been playing with Vlad Nemetsnikov, and there was plenty of talk about the Jets trying to maybe upgrade that second-line center role. We know what happened or didn't happen with Brock Nelson. And then there was Vlad getting his first goal in 12 games on a play beautifully set up by Cole Perfetti. Here's what Marty had to say about Vlad in the middle of line 2.
Yeah, I think he's done a really good job on that line in the middle. He does a lot of things. His versatility is quite something, and you're talking about a player that's involved in our power play, our penalty kill, and our second line. So maybe the value isn't stated enough of how important he is to our group. And again, it was nice to see him score last night. He scored right in the blue paint. But for a coach, it's what you see away from the puck as well. And I think that he's a big part of our success so far, and he will be moving forward.
Now, moving back to the blue line, Hayden Fleury re-entered the lineup post-trade deadline with the addition of Luke Schenn, who made his debut. Schenn on the right side, and Hayden Fleury along with the big newcomer on the left. They played just over 10 minutes. Marty Johnson talked about Fleury, his season, being back in the lineup and playing with Schenn.
I hadn't had much experience with Hayden. Obviously, spent a lot of time in the East. Obviously, he was in Seattle for a bit. But what jumps out is his skating ability. And right from training camp, that was something that, was very evident. Obviously, he has a relationship with Dean Chenoweth from previous teams. So I think that helped him as well. The other thing that I, would have to tip my cap to Chevy and the pro scouts is that unbelievable team guy. In terms of how he is in the dressing room, how he prepares, how he deals with not being in the lineup or whatever the case may be. He's fit into what we are as a group, and I think that's been a part of his success. And then he's also put in a lot of work when maybe he hasn't gotten into the lineup, and I think that's a tough thing to do when you're not playing. It's really hard to to push yourself to the point to make sure that you're ready to play. And we saw last night he was jumping into the rush. His pace was really good, and that's because he put in the work. And we're happy to see him play that way.
All right, so there's Marty Johnson on a Hayden Fleury. I liked Fleury's game. I mean, I think very early on we saw that this is a very capable NHL defenseman, a guy that could play. But it seemed to be a really nice fit with Luke Schenn, who is, of course, taking care of business in front of the net, hitting guys, blocking shots, as advertised coming here to the Winnipeg Jets. Now, certainly the talk on this program and all around the city is about Friday night's game against the Dallas Stars, the top two teams in the West right now, both in the Central Division. Marty Johnson was asked if there's talk in the room about the importance of finishing first in the division.
We have never really talked about that as a group. I think tomorrow and Friday will be about maybe some of the new looks that they have based on the fact, I think it was game 25 that we played them in the regular season. So there's some different players in the lineup, but our structure and how we play is going to provide us stability and success. And that's Friday, and then it'll be, in Seattle the following game. So we're not looking too far ahead. I think that's a dangerous thing to do. The group's been good, and it's similar to the question about how we play, whether we have a lead or not. the bench doesn't change. Arnie certainly doesn't change, and that's been sort of the MO from the start of the season.
Now listen, all of that is true. They have been very consistent. They have focused on, the task at hand, and that's been a big part of their place in the standings right now. That being said, this is still the Dallas Stars coming in. Mikko Rantanen in there. They will be missing Rupi Hintz and Miro Heiskanen. But Marty got pressed on. Now listen, is there a little more added pressure considering the significance of tomorrow's game and who the opponent is?
Yeah, I think naturally our guys will be ready. Everybody's talking about what has happened since the trade deadline, where we're at. Naturally, it's going to be a big game, but will we put added pressure? No, we won't. We're going to stick to the foundation of who we are and what we are, and up until this point in the season, we feel that that's been a good recipe, and we're going to continue to do that.
We heard from Brandon Tana. We talked about Luke Shen coming in. Marty was asked just on the job that the general manager's done in bringing players in who are the right fit for this team in regards to play style, as well as fitting into the culture that they've built.
Yeah, I think he's done an outstanding job. I know that, I haven't had a lot of experience in the league, but since I've been with the Jets, we're always getting guys that fit into the room. And yes, we have to make sure they fit on the ice too. But how this group has meshed together, and even within a couple days, seeing Brandon and Luke and how they're received. They're out there working with guys before and after practice, within being here for 24 or 48 hours. So we've done a really good job identifying the type of people we need to get, and then obviously the intangibles of what those players bring. It might not always be goals, assists, points, but it's the intangibles that they bring to our group that fits into our system and our structure.
One other thing that Marty and some of the assistant coaches are deal with a little bit more is the guys that aren't in the lineup. And now post-deadline, you've got a couple more guys around. There's a little bit more to that. Just Marty speaking on, maintaining and working with the healthy scratches at this time of the year as that number has grown post-deadline.
Well, I think Scott does a good job communicating with those players on a daily basis. Everybody is aware of what's going on that day or that night. And then from there, you have to provide some variety for those players to make sure that it's enjoyable as well. Those after practice workouts, but no, it's been really good. And I think that's our leadership group making sure that everybody feels connected and involved. And it's been a pleasure so far to work with the group, and we know that it's going to be even tougher moving forward. But the response that we've gotten from them in terms of work ethic and buy-in has been excellent.
All right, so there's Marty Johnson. Now, before we bring in Ken, let's hear a little bit of Kyle Connor as well. Kyle, and listen, I think we've spoken a little bit. I mean, the first line has not been certainly at their best results. Kyle Connor's been shooting the puck a lot since the deadline, not as many going in, but there has been some increased playmaking. And, of course, that power play keeps on rolling. Here's Kyle Connor on his increased playmaking kind of since that Four Nations break.
Yeah, I think it's just a function of the games. I think I've always been a guy that's been able to, take what's available, whether it's a shot or a pass, and just kind of read off what the defense has given me. And, for whatever reason, the last little bit of a stretch, it seems like, the pass has been that option.
Yeah, but yeah, exactly. I mean, you had the one night where you had the 10 shots. You're usually in around that 4 to 5 shot range, so you're still getting your looks then.
Yeah, it's there's no change in the game, or for that game. It's the opportunities were coming my way. I found myself in a position to try to score a couple, and some other nights they're not, and they might be overplaying me or overplaying certain scenarios. And you see it from our line. It's it's not one guy that's scoring, everybody. So it's it's a function of how we're playing, how we're reading off each other, and also just how they're defending us, and not being such a one-trick pony. That's tough to read. You never want to be that way. It's too predictable for the defenders, and I think that makes our line elite, and hopefully even on the power play as well. It's we have so many different options, and right now it's, that those low plays have really been able to capitalize on them. We're trying to draw those two forwards outside, and whether it's Scheif coming up or me coming up with JMO, it's you get that 3-on-2 down low, and that's what we're seeing.
All right, now a little bit more from Kyle Connor. Of course, the question of the week is all about Friday night. Here's Connor on tomorrow's big matchup against the Dallas Stars.
I mean, exciting time. That's one of the teams that's been there every single year. You got to go through them. It seems like, them, Colorado, especially in the Central, they've been at the top of the league for a long time, and we're familiar with them. We know them obviously, and getting a chance to kind of set that tone any chance you can in the regular season. These games are only going to get more intense, and obviously, big division matchup. When the time comes, it'll ramp up, and you'll feel the energy, and there's no doubt that this team's going to get up for that one.
All right, Kyle Connor on tomorrow's matchup against Dallas, and of course a couple new teammates as well. Here's what Kyle Connor thought about welcoming Brandon Tanev back and Luke Schenn to the Winnipeg Jets and into the room.
Yeah, I mean, obviously a couple of great additions. We have Schenner and Tanny. We're familiar with Tanny, his game, and obviously Schenner. I thought he brought a great element that he does really well, and that we're needing back there. And the amount of shot blocks and just great plays, simple plays that maybe go unnoticed to the untrained eye, but we notice them and appreciate them. And I think our group overall has been very deep. Whether there's injuries or guys stepping in and out of the lineup, it's been next man up, and from day one it's been a whole team effort. Every single line, every single D pairing, it's someone new scoring that game-winning goal. It's everybody. So I think we're going to lean on our depth, and I think we're, it's a big strength for us.
All right, and one more from Kyle Connor, just coming off the additions. He was just asked about what the Jets did, and then what their division counterparts, Colorado and Dallas, did at the deadline.
Yeah, it's different. You got to look at our, you want to be aware of what the other teams are doing, but you just look at our team and what we've been doing. We've been the top of the league throughout the whole year, so I don't know if you want to mess too much with that chemistry. And we brought in two great pieces to complement that. But I like our team. I'm confident in this group. Guys have proven. Throughout the year, it's been able to get it done, and so to be able to get that chance in the playoffs to prove that we can take that next step as a group is huge.
All right, so there's Kyle Connor. Might have a little hellebuck before the end of the program. He was scheduled to chat after practice today, but we'll have Ken Wiebe join us in just a moment here on WST. Huge thanks to our friends at Princess Auto for their great support of Winnipeg Sports Talk and so many of our sports teams in the city. Of course, Princess Auto is founded here in Winnipeg, headquartered here in Winnipeg, and while the company is coast to coast, home is still Winnipeg, and of course, 3 Manitoba locations to serve you, 2 in the city, Panet Road, Portage Avenue West, as well as a location out in Brandon for our friends in Westman. Pop into Princess Auto and you'll find the best deals on the most unique assortment of tools and equipment around. Everything you need to complete the projects on your list or start something new is waiting for you at Princess Auto. And if you can't make it down in store, you can shop, get those ideas flowing 24/7, 365 online over at princessauto.com, and counting down the days till we're back at Princess Auto Stadium cheering on the Winnipeg Blue Bombers this season. Speaking of great Winnipeg companies, huge thanks to Wallace & Wallace for their support of Winnipeg Sports Talk. They, of course, are the fencing and overhead door specialists. Got a real nice comment from Joanne Remillard, who had said, hey, thanks for your announcements for Wallace & Wallace on your daily podcast. I was very impressed with the service I got when I accidentally closed my garage door while backing out of my garage last night. They drove out to the country and fixed my garage door the next morning and got everything working again. Thank you. Listen, Joanne, thank you for supporting our sponsors in Wallace & Wallace, and great to know they're taking great care of our listeners. Of course, if you got fencing or overhead door needs, give them a phone call, 452-2700. The Wallace & Wallace team, as they did with Joanne, will be happy to come out and give you a free estimate or come down and do the fixing that you need. And you can also check them out online for all their services, wallacefences.com, wallacedoors.com, or pop by and see them in person at Lawson Crescent, just off of Kenaston at their showroom. Folks, with spring here, or just around the corner, maybe, guys, you're needing to up your menswear game heading into the new seasons. You got grads, you got weddings coming up. Well, F Apparel is the best in men's clothing. Custom suits starting just over $400. Chinos, golf pants, custom shirts, and the best selection of menswear accessories as well. And right now, their annual grad promotion, where if you get a new suit for a 2025 Manitoba graduate, F Apparel will include a free custom shirt and tie for that graduate to wear on the big day. And hey, guys, if you're in a wedding party or getting married, make sure to talk to the fellas at F about a great discount for the wedding party when you get your suits at F Apparel. They're waiting for you downtown 190 Smith Street. You can also check them out online or make an appointment to come in for a fitting at F, that's EPH Apparel.com. Well, we bring in Kenny in just a minute. Cheers to our friends at Canadian Club. I know there's all this tariff BS that we're all dealing with. And listen, the Manitoba liquor marts look quite different right now than maybe they did a month ago. The good news is, though, is we all want to support Canadian, the great taste of the original, the standard when it comes to Canadian whiskey. Canadian Club is ready and waiting for you at your local Manitoba liquor marts. Make sure to check out the Canadian Club display, which will have your Canadian Club Original, your Canadian Club 100% Rye, your Canadian Club Classic, and any of the others, the special releases from Canadian Club that may be around. Canadian Club since 1848, proudly Canadian. Pick it up at your local Manitoba liquor marts. All right, Kenny is ready to go. Lots of running around for Wiebe's World these last couple days. An impromptu skate yesterday that sent his entire day into chaos, but everything is settled. And Ken joins us now on Winnipeg Sports Talk. Kenneth, welcome back to the program.
Afternoon, Andrew. Great to be with you. How's everything going in Peg City here? Everything all right?
Well,
ready to roll?
I'll be honest.
Big weekend ahead.
Yeah, listen, I'm fired up for tomorrow's game, obviously. A nice win on Tuesday. My day did not get off to a great start. I had a bit of a wager on Justin Thomas. I turned the television on. He was 2 under, playing the 17th hole. He proceeded to double that one, triple 18. He started on the back. He went 10 over the next 9 holes. So my JT future, not looking very good right now. I love the players. We'll do a full leader round update later on for our friends at Breezy Bend as we get ready to really kick off golf season with Breezy Bend. But at least I can not worry about the JT problems in my life, knowing how big of a hockey game we've got tomorrow against the Dallas Stars. You know, we were diving in to the money puck numbers. And Ken, this is one of the most high leverage games of the entire season. A head-to-head matchup at home with the team that is chasing the Winnipeg Jets. About a 20% swing in likelihood of winning the division based on the results of tomorrow night's game. This is in a lot of ways what you play for as well. But with the way the Jets have played all year long, the last thing they want to do is allow Dallas to come in if the off-ramp onto the highway on the way to first place in the Central.
Yeah, so I mean, it's so interesting because the teams haven't met since November, right? And it's an almost, some people may have forgotten, it was almost the exact same scenario at that game in November. It was a chance for I think the Jets went from 8 to 10 that time too, right? I don't know, it was either 6 to 8 or 8 to 10, whatever it was. So, I mean, of course, it's not just a typical game 67 or 68 here, but at the same time, I mean, these two teams will play one more time in Dallas, which I would say that the odds will be much more high leverage in that game, right? I mean, let's put it this way. If either team sweeps those two games, they're probably winning the division. The most likely scenario is a split of the two games. But, I mean, you're right. I mean, this is very simple. I mean, all year long, we're in the media, we're talking about 4-point games, and so are players and coaches and everybody else. I mean, the difference between a 10-point gap with 2 games in hand, or a 6-point gap to over a team that has 2 games in hand is fairly significant. But I actually quite like the approach that Marty Johnson took yesterday when he was asked about it. I mean, the Jets aren't suddenly going to take a different approach because we in the media are saying, hey, this seems like a really important game. Well, I mean, the Jets treat every game of the same significance. Now, we're not going to pretend and say a game against the Buffalo Sabres is the same as a game against the Dallas Stars, but part of the reason the Jets are where they are, Huss, is their ability to, unpack the previous game, move on to the next one, focus on the next one, and not be worried about a game that's going to be played 1 month from now against the same opponent. So I'm not here to downplay the significance of the game. I think it's going to be the most important game the Jets have played this season. But in a lot of ways, Huss, the Jets have a parallel with the Bombers in terms of how they're trying to go 1-0 each week, that kind of idea. I've seen that similarity in terms of how the players handle their business in the days leading up to games, and you see it in terms of the coaching staff, how they're never looking down the road at Alex. So you and I are looking forward to March 25th when Alex Ovechkin comes here, but the Jets are singularly focused on the Dallas Stars, and then they'll be singularly focused on the Seattle Kraken. So, I mean, again, I'm here for the matchup. I think it's going to be a fantastic game. There's lots on the line. 2 teams look not completely different from November, but substantial changes, significant changes, and both teams going to want to make an impact in this game. But Huss, I mean, we're 1 year removed from the Jets waxing Colorado 7-0 in game 81, and that ended up meaning absolutely zilch when the playoffs started. So again, I'm not trying to downplay it whatsoever. It's just, at the end of the day, it's a building block towards game 83, which is what both teams will be looking at.
Yeah, well, I mean, listen, that is one thing, but I mean, this to me is about winning the Central Division, and the path.
Sure.
The path in the playoffs is significantly different if you win the Central than if you're second, because there are 3 legitimate cup contending teams in this division, and 2 of them are going to go head to head in the first round.
Yeah,
which
is sad for hockey fans.
You know what? Yeah, well, I mean, I guess, but
in those markets, Huss, I mean, the fact that at least one of those teams will be out after 1 round is bad for hockey in general. When they're 3 of the top 6 candidates to win the cup is my point. I mean, it's similar to when the Jets played Nashville in 2018. That should have been the conference final that year based on statistical standings throughout the course of the season. But guess what? Those are not the rules that we are navigating these days.
Do you take all 3 of those Central teams over anybody in the Pacific?
No, I mean, I'm not saying that I'm taking them over Vegas. I mean, Vegas is a legit threat to the throne for sure. I don't think that I'm not being dismissive of them. And, I guess I would have to say Edmonton. I'm not as sold on Edmonton as many others, Huss. I mean, I obviously respect their team, what they did last year. I don't think they're as good as they were last year. However, Leon Draisaitl is playing at a ridiculous level. And Connor McDavid, even though he has not been at the Hart Trophy level, he's going to elevate when the playoffs come. So I would include Vegas in that. I would probably take all 4 of those teams over. Again, Florida. I think Florida is going to be, the biggest threat out of the East. And again, you have to respect them as the defending cup champ. But the Ekblad news probably not ideal for them. And Huss, it's always tough. We've seen this a lot. When you get there a second time, it's really hard to do the second time over. So I would say I would take the 4 Western teams over all teams, even though, like I said, I'm not discounting Florida, and there are obviously other teams in the East like Tampa, like even Toronto. I think is a legitimate threat as long as their goaltending holds up. But I mean, there's question marks around all those teams in the East, including Carolina, which I also thought Carolina was great. And sorry, I've got this far and I haven't even mentioned Washington, and I think Washington is a legit threat too. So. I mean, I'm not trying to be anti-Eastern biased to even things out, but I think there's legitimately 7 real threats, and I think you could include if Carolina plays like they did against Winnipeg on Sunday, Huss, they're also a legit candidate. So what does that get us to? 8 or 9 teams that could have a legit chance of winning the cup, and then I'm not even discounting the fact that some of those other teams that are going to win the wild card could go on a crazy ride and be a threat also, right? I mean, beauty of the NHL is that you got to beat 4 really, really good teams in order to win the Stanley Cup. So again, I'm with you. The path is much easier if the Jets play a wild card team, but I mean, the chances are, based on how the standings are, I mean, look what happened last night with Calgary and Vancouver, Huss. I mean, now they're even, right? I mean, it's the beauty of that is whoever gets in is going to be playing well. So I don't think the Jets or either of those other two teams would be, kicking their feet up in the air thinking they got a cakewalk of a first round. Now, it's not maybe necessarily going to be, as tough a battle as it would be against Dallas or Colorado. So, hey, I'm with you 100%. Any team that wins the Central is going to have a benefit, whether that benefit is in the first round or whatever else. If you want to win the Cup, you got to have at least one easy round in terms of games played. That's got to be 4 or 5 games played. If you're going 7 every round, chances are going to be tough that you don't have a lot left by round 4.
On you.
Yeah. I mean, the Jets saw it themselves. I mean, the inability to knock out Nashville in either game 5 or game 6, it didn't hurt them in game 7, but it surely hurt them in games 2, 3, 4, and 5 against Vegas that other year, right? So you have to make the path will be what the path is. And again, all 3 of those teams are still a threat to win the Cup, whether you finish first, second, or third is I'm not arguing with you. It's just the counter side. And Adam Lowry said it last week. You have to beat 4 great teams to win the Cup. So again, not downplaying the significance. Can't wait for the game on Friday. But at the same time, Huss, the Jets, if they happen to lose the game to Dallas, it doesn't mean that they can't win the division, and it doesn't mean their season is over. I'm just trying to, and you're not saying that.
No,
I'm
they'll
just saying
still
that
be a favorite, but I mean, it's
tougher.
They'll be 90% to win this thing if they get it done. And I guess the reason why I go back to that, I mean, we can't listen. It's easy for us, and I mean, I know when you're doing your daily stories for the Winnipeg Free Press, you're focusing on the team, like what's happening on the ice, but I mean, there's a bigger picture with the Winnipeg Jets over what's happened the last couple of years, the work they've got to do to get more people in on season tickets and all of that. Like, if they went through this year 80% of the way, the number 1 team in the league, and then got caught at the end by the Dallas Stars and ended up getting bounced in the first round, I think that would be really damaging to the momentum that they've created and everything that they've done so far. So it is time to finish the job for the regular season and put their best foot forward in the playoffs to actually have that playoff run and not have it end the way that it did the last couple of years. And this game tomorrow night is going to have a big, big factor on that. And as I say, it could be a little stress-free. The other thing, Ken, and let's talk about this for a moment. If they're able to win this game and get back to a comfortable lead and, you're 10 points up or you're 8 points up as the games get, it does give, I think, the organization and the coaching staff more flexibility with how much you're playing Connor Hellebuyck. Now, I've probably been the least worried about Hellebuck's workload amongst any of the people that we talk about. But I do think that having that option and not feeling the need to go back to Helly and do whatever you can to put him in the best headspace, feeling the best, to be at his best when you need him for the playoffs is another thing. Like, it's one thing to win the division. You absolutely want to do that. I think with where they are right now, you'd also like to have a little bit of wiggle room with maybe if you feel the need to do it, rest Hellebuyck a little bit more down the stretch, because this is the time where I think it does affect. Like, playing a couple extra games in November, I'm not sure. I've never been sold that matters very much in April. March, I think it really does. And you saw 2 years ago when all of a sudden they blew that lead and they had to play him 13 of the final 14 games.
Right.
I don't know whether that helped him in that Vegas series.
Yeah, no, I mean, the thing with Hellebuyck is obvious, right? When Big Save Dave stopped making saves, specifically in that game against Columbus, that was it. That was it for him until game 82. And even last year, Huss, I mean, the Jets had the best backup in the league in Laurent Brossoit last year. That didn't impact Connor Hellebuyck's number of starts down the stretch. So what I would say this, I mean, you're 100% right, but I just don't think the Jets are taking their foot off the pedal at all. But at the same time, they have a plan for Hellebuyck. Again, I would say that they were fortunate this week. They got him an extra day break with games Tuesday and Friday. I would think that Eric Comrie will play Sunday in Seattle. That will give him another break until Tuesday. So that means Saturday, Sunday, Monday. That's 2 3-day breaks in a very it's a 2-day break and a 3-day break in a short amount of time. That will help the mental reset, especially coming out of Four Nations. Now, not a lot of back-to-backs left, right? I think only maybe one left, if I'm not mistaken. So Eric Comrie's still going to get, okay, what are we down to? 16. Eric Comrie is at 16 starts. I think there's got to be 4 starts for Comrie. If there's a 5th, that's a bonus for the Winnipeg Jets. But Hellebuyck is in a really good headspace, it feels like to me, Huss. I think physically and mentally he's in a good spot. He's going to want to be into his rhythm. But at the same time, they're not going to run him into the ground over the pursuit of first place. I mean, Huss, the Colorado Avalanche did this we talked about 2 years ago. They ran Georgiev into the ground thinking the benefits of finishing higher up in the standings, and then they got bounced by the Seattle Kraken. So I think with the benefit of hindsight, I think, we're always looking down the road, but I think that the Jets are not going to stray from their plan. They trust in their plan. Eric Comrie has given them enough quality starts that they're not worried. Like 2 years ago, you talked about Riddick, Huss. The Jets didn't trust him to play at a requisite level to get them in. So they just rode Hellebuyck until they've clinched the spot. I don't see that as being an issue here. Comrie has done the job all year long. His play down the stretch has been, very good for a backup. And I think that, like I said, I see it as a sort of a 12-4 split. And in a perfect world for the Jets, it's an 11-5 split, probably.
Ken Wiebe with us here on Winnipeg Sports Talk. You can check out all of his work in the Winnipeg Free Press. Listen, I want to get to a couple other topics, but let's get to practice today.
Yep.
No Nikolai Ehlers, no Neil Pionk. What do we know about those two players' situations and availability for tomorrow night?
Yeah, not a whole lot. Scott O'Neill has kept his cards close to the vest when it comes to lineup decisions throughout the course of the year. Ehlers, I'm not sure. I mean, I thought he finished the game fine the other night. Pionk is something, I'm not going to say it's more of a concern, Huss, but because of what I saw with my own eyes in Carolina, when we were waiting for Scott O'Neill to come out, Neil Pionk walked by with what looked like a doctor, and he was limping significantly, Huss. Yes, he made it through the game the other night, but not before he got clipped by Brennan Othmann, right? I mean, he didn't fully get hit, but it looked like his knees locked with Othmann. And although, you've talked about it with others, I mean, we love the way that that Luke Schenn played in his debut, but I don't think the plan was for Luke Schenn to be out on the ice instead of Neil Pionk the other day. No offense to Luke Schenn, who you can capably use in that situation, and maybe they will do that more often, but I'm not sure that was necessarily by design, Huss, is what I would say. Don't you agree? Weren't you? I mean, again, I thought it was a good call at the time, but it's something I wasn't expecting to see in that situation, protecting a 1-goal lead, because that would be Neil Pionk's normal position.
Yeah, it's funny. I'm all for it.
I'm all for it.
Like I put it this way, I thought we might see that, but I wasn't sure we'd be seeing that in game 1 in a 1-goal game. I guess that's my point.
And that's why I'm saying it. I think that's what we're going to see that at times during the playoffs. But in this specific instance, with Luke having skated, 2 times since the second trade, I don't think that it was necessarily by design. In terms of Ehlers, this is fairly, routine maintenance. I mean, we've seen this over the years. I expect him to be ready to play, but again, I don't know what he's dealing with. And most players are not 100% healthy at this time of the year. So do I expect Ehlers to be out there on Friday? Absolutely. But we won't know for sure until the morning skate on Friday. And, it complicates things with Pionk to a degree, but not really. So here we talked about depth all the time, Huss. So if Pionk can't play, Colin Miller plays, Luke Schenn goes on the second pairing with Sandberg, and, they can definitely do more than just get by.
Okay, I was going to ask you that. So that would be...
Well, that's how I would say. I mean, what else would you do?
Yeah, like I wasn't sure whether they would keep Schenn and move up Fleury potentially, and then have Schenn. But I mean, I guess if you're talking about
right side, left side, yeah.
Well, I mean, someone's going to be playing on the wrong side, right?
Well, no. Miller's right shot, so it's just simple right shot for right shot. So I mean, with Schenn coming in, you don't have to worry. Everything before, Stanley would move over to the left, or Sandberg, or whatever else. Like now they're in a position where, with the 9 deep that they have, and having Coughlin as a 10th with the Manitoba Moose, never mind Elias Solomonson, right? So they're 11 deep already. I understand you can make the argument that if you're missing a puck mover like Pionk, maybe you think about Heinola. But to me, Colin Miller's body of work would suggest that Miller would go in with Fleury on the third pairing. Schenn would just move up with Sandberg like he did at the end of the game, and sort of that's the way they go. But you can shuffle things around, right? I mean, this is sort of, unintended consequences, in some ways unintended benefits, right? If he is unable to go, you get an early look at what Schenn Sandberg may look like. Again, the Jets want Pionk in the lineup, don't get me wrong. But if you're forced to make that decision, you will get a test drive of what that could look like. Or like you said, Huss, maybe you just go Miller with Sandberg and keep the pairing that was so effective the other night. And again, I understand some people didn't like the shot metrics, but I didn't see that line being underwater, or that pairing being underwater or under siege, even though the shot attempts were higher. That did not bother me one bit. Luke Schenn played an incredibly solid first game, did everything, came as advertised, 5 hits, 5 blocks, rocked Kaliev when it was necessary, blocked a shot during a late power play. I loved Hayden Fleury's game. Huss, you know how I feel about his game. I think that he was smart in when he activated in the rush. I thought he moved the puck efficiently, and I thought there was a calmness to his game that hasn't been there as often since his injury on December 23rd. When he came back on January 22nd, naturally it took him a little bit longer to find it. And Huss, having talked to Hayden yesterday, he was the first to admit that sometimes when he goes a long time between games, he can get a little scrambly out on the ice. I didn't see any of that on Tuesday. I saw calmness, whether it was dealing with sort-outs, whether it was dealing with breakouts, whether it was dealing with activating on the rush. I loved everything about that pairing, and I want to see more of it when Neil Pionk is in the lineup, if that's Friday or otherwise. But the Jets have positioned themselves to, we've been talking about the jockeying on positioning on the depth chart for us since training camp. But I'm here to tell you that what I saw on Tuesday was the game one lineup for the Winnipeg Jets. That's not to say that Rasmus Kupari can't force his way in at some point. If the Jets are healthy, Huss, that was their game one lineup for the Stanley Cup playoffs, and I think you would agree.
Oh yeah, definitely. The only question to me was it going to be Fleury, and I guess obviously Kupari. But when we saw Barron move over and hold his own the way that he did, this is not the first time he's been moved in at center. We know they want some more size, and Barron, a guy that can take the puck to the net and go there. I think that makes sense. And listen, I think they know that they've got a player in Kupari that can come in and do some particular things very, very well if they do need him. And listen, I've got a lot of time for David Gustafsson too, as I know you do. So that is where they are. Just on that third pairing, I know there's a lot of different places you can go for numbers and, analytics and all that. I'm just looking at, with the money puck breakdown of everything. And they had that third pairing at 55% expected goals percentage on that, which was the best of the 3 pairings right now, of the 3 pairings from that game, albeit in 10 minutes and 31 seconds. So the smallest of sample sizes in one game. Just overall, Luke Schenn coming in, he certainly was as advertised. And I loved the crowd. And again, Winnipeg has a pretty knowledgeable hockey crowd for the most part. Some of the biggest applauses of the entire game were a couple of those big shot blocks that he had last night. That team was very committed to doing everything they could to helping out their goaltender, who helps them out so much. And it seems like everything you thought that you were getting in Schenn, a physical guy who will hit, who will clear out the front of the net, who will pay the price and take a couple to help the team. He did all of that and more in that game on Tuesday.
For sure. And Huss, I would just put it to you this way. I'm not suggesting that the Jets fans felt better about not adding a 2C, but for all the people freaking out about the deadline, Huss, don't you think their view changed slightly, at least slightly, by what they saw in terms of the impact Schenn was able to make in game one, and envisioning what that will look like in a series against Dallas or against Colorado or against someone else?
Well, listen, I don't think anyone was down on the Schenn ad. But Schenn was never going to come in and play in the top 6 in the middle. No, I'm just saying that people are saying that this is just a depth ad. Luke Schenn is not a depth ad. He is on a depth. He's maybe starting in a depth position, but this is a guy that played on the top pairing with Morgan Riley when the Leafs picked them up when they thought they were a Stanley Cup contender. So funny you say that. I've talked about that quite a bit this week. I like come playoff time, especially when teams are going to be running Josh Morrissey and trying to make him pay the price as much as possible. It would, in fact, I almost expect it to be Morrissey will lead the team in ice time, and let's just take an average 60-minute game. and JMO will play 26, maybe 27 minutes. You'll have a high teens number for Pionk and Sandberg, if not over 20. And then in that third pairing, I wouldn't be surprised if Schenn plays with Morrissey. Like, say Dylan DeMello plays 19, 20 of the minutes with Morrissey. I wouldn't be surprised if Schenn starts getting a few shifts. They get Josh out there a little bit more. And obviously it wouldn't be bad to have a little bit bigger of a bodyguard for Josh if things get a little nasty at times, but also give him maybe a little bit more of a presence in front of the net, because Josh has shown he can play with a number of different players. The more he is out there, the better chances the Jets have, frankly, being in the other team's end. And I do think that, based on the Riley example and what he brings to the table, he could be more than a 10.5-minute defenseman, a guy that could play 5, 6, maybe more minutes up with Josh Morrissey when Dylan DeMello is not on his side.
Right. I mean, we saw it already in game one, right? 16 minutes for Schenn and I think 14 and change for Fleury. So, and again, and I'm not saying this is the case either, and neither are you, Huss, but I mean, if DeMello had to go down for a shift or two with Hayden Fleury or whatever they're rolling out in the third pairing, that also makes sense because Dylan DeMello is a kind of a stabilizer as well. And again, Fleury's 6'3", 297 pounds. So, I mean, like, he's still a pretty big guy. So, just having more options at his disposal is something that both Dean Chenoweth and Scott O'Neill will be thrilled about. But yeah, I mean, I think that Schenn was absolutely outstanding the other day, and I expect him to get better and better because this is a guy that had a whole lot thrown at him in a very short amount of time. He used the word whirlwind, but I mean, you have to think that was a lot to go through. Like I said, in a 3-day span, you got traded twice, and you basically touched almost all. You touched a lot of the continent in that short amount of time. So I expect him to continue to be a factor. And once he gets more and more comfortable with, I mean, he talked about both Schenn and Hayden Fleury talked about the importance of communication. And yeah, the more shifts you play with a regular partner, and for him, if he jumps up and does take some shifts with Sandberg and or Morrissey, he's going to be feeling more and more comfortable. He's a guy that is at his best when he's doing the things that he was doing the other day. I'm sure there would have been some level of emotion for him coming to a new place. But, I mean, this is a Prairie guy who I think is excited to be playing on the Prairies. I mean, not to say that he didn't love playing in Nashville. I'm sure that he did. But, I mean, we talked a lot going into the deadline about culture carriers, Huss. I mean, this is a guy like Brendan Dillon, high character guy who does all the hard things incredibly well. And I think he's going to fit in seamlessly here. And we've seen from Brandon Tanev too already, absolute bundle of energy, whatever term you want to use. Worker bee, I think, is one thing that, who called him that? Cole Perfetti maybe called him that. And just his ability to get, I mean, I know you've talked about it all week, Huss, because I've been listening. His ability to get his nose dirty and under the skin of the opposition. I mean, to quote our old friend Evander Kane, I mean, Brandon Tanev plays with an FU attitude. Let's get real. And the Jets don't have a whole lot of that in their lineup. I mean, beyond Adam Lowry, I mean, some other guys do it. But, I mean, Brandon Tanev is all over the map. He's all over the place. And Huss, how much time have we spent talking about the need for the penalty kill to get better? I mean, Brandon Tanev is going to help make the penalty kill get better. Someone sent me a note saying, oh, Tanev's having a bad year killing penalties. I'm like, well, I'm here to tell you that he's going to come to a system here in Winnipeg, and he's going to help the penalty kill. And same with Luke Schenn. So, and that's what we've seen already, and we're going to see more of it as those guys become more and more comfortable with what their situation is like.
Hey, just back to this Pionk status, and how the lineup may look tomorrow. Bigger picture. Now that we both agree that that's their top 6, as we saw on Tuesday night. Do you think that if a right shot defenseman is out, Colin Miller will come in? If a left side D is out, Stanley comes in? Is that sort of how you'd expect a replacement to work as we move forward through the rest of the regular season and playoffs?
Yeah, I mean, it's a little bit too early to tell, Huss. I'm not sure if I think that there was a time earlier this year where either Pionk or Miller played on their offside, and I think it kind of in game they kind of both maybe did it. One of those games, there were a couple times, and including I think it was the game where Fleury got hurt in Toronto. I seem to recall Miller and Pionk took some shifts together. Obviously, they only had 5D, but I haven't asked Colin Miller how comfortable he is playing on the left side, and I do think that would be something that the Jets are going to maybe test out at some point here. If Hayden Fleury I'm just going to put it this way, Huss. If Fleury plays like he did the other day, keeps it simple, does the things that he is good at efficiently, I think he has the ability to take a strong foothold on that pairing. But at the same time, we can't discount the fact that Tuesday was the first healthy scratch of the season for Logan Stanley. So do I expect them to abandon him completely? I would say it's far too early to tell. And again, does that mean they're playing Stanley with Schenn? Does that mean that Schenn is going up? You're playing Stanley with Miller? I mean, a lot of things have to happen before I can give you a definitive answer. But for me, the top 6 is what it is. And then I see Miller being the first in on the right side, and I probably see Stanley the first in on the left side. Now, if it's Pionk, like I said, you could make a case for Heinola, but to me, I have a hard time envisioning Heinola working his way into the discussion based on how limited his playing time has been this year. And Huss, in some ways, and I know he's a left shot, but I mean, in some ways, he might even be behind Dylan Coghlan on the depth chart, even though Coghlan cleared waivers and is with the Moose. So, again, we'll see what happens, and the Jets have capable pieces throughout there. And as I said, I mean, if your 11th guy is Elias Solomonson, again, if he hadn't missed time, I think we might have even seen him by now. And Huss, I do think if the Jets are able to clinch the division, Solomonson will get his carrot, much like Nikita Chibrikov and Brad Lambert got it in Game 82 last year. I think we will see him in April, provided things unfold, the way that the Jets would be hoping for them to unfold. But again, some people ask me if they could envision a scenario where Solomonson somehow leapfrogs Miller. Like, that would be asking an awful lot of a player who has not played in the NHL. And yes, we understand, Huston. We talked about this all summer. This guy has won a championship in a men's professional league and played an important role. But right now, for me, I think he's got a few too many players to leapfrog in order to get himself into the playoff lineup. But having said that, I think the Jets are much more or much better positioned to handle, a series of injuries if they happen to fall on the back end.
Hey, I got to give a shout out to our guy Les Thompson in chat. Just purchased ticket for tomorrow's Jets game, section 316. Go Jets, go! Les, I will be in 316 tomorrow as well. I will see you there.
Go say hello to Hustler.
And
guy's a man of the people. Les, let's go.
If you didn't, but I was just mentioning beforehand, Ken. While we were getting you on, we were kind of checking around. There's a lot of seats in the upper bowl available for tomorrow night's game. This is a big one. If you've been sticking around, you've been waiting to get out to a game. It's Friday night. It's the top 2 teams in the West and 2 of the best teams in the NHL. This is certainly a time to get that building full. So great to see a lot of people looking to see if they can make it there. I hope to see you tomorrow. And yes, if you can, get in 316, and we'll see you at the intermission in the corner bar just outside it. Ken, you mentioned Elias Solomonson. We've been, we're kind of living in the present right now with the team, game by game, looking ahead to the playoffs. And listen, I don't think he'll probably be a black ace and we'll get a little taste of it, but I wouldn't expect him to play. But I do wonder, right now, what is your feeling on the likelihood of a Pionk extension? And knowing that now Luke Schenn is here with that extra year on the contract and Colin Miller, if that happens, does that almost assuredly mean another full year in the American League for Elias?
Yeah, I wouldn't put it that way, Huss. And we were just talking about the ability to maybe shift over to the left side if necessary. I have a hard time envisioning a scenario where Solomonson is not on the Jets' third pairing next year, is what I would say. So, no, I don't see it that way at all. And I understand that some fans say, oh, well, it happened to Heinola, it's going to happen to Solomonson. Huss, here is the biggest difference between Heinola and Solomonson. Heinola is a skilled, undersized defenseman. The Jets have a lot of those guys in their back end. Elias Solomonson plays with the type of physical edge while still having the mobility and puck skills that they are looking to add to the defense core. So I don't see a scenario where Elias Solomonson is with the Moose next year, even though he is a guy that would not require waivers. Solomonson will be on the team for me next year. Now, I'm not running the team, but that's how I envision it. And for the people that are nervous thinking this is going to happen to someone else, I tell you to take a deep breath. It's not going to be happening to Solomonson. He's more physically advanced. And I think that, and Huss, the biggest difference, this is simple. Heinola made it as an 18-year-old when he wasn't ready. And Solomonson will now be, 20 or 21 by the time he breaks into the NHL lineup. And again, I'm not knocking Heinola for making the team. He made the team because there was an opportunity that presented itself, and he made the most of it. But his timeline got totally messed up by making the team coming out of the draft that year. And then he had to deal with COVID also. So anyways, I don't see that as an impediment. It's only one more year of Miller, one more year of Schenn. I think that they can comfortably all find a way to make things happen. And if they can't, then they'll find another team that will take one of those players. I mean,
what about Pionk, though? I mean, like,
Pionk. I don't think that it impacts. I don't think it precludes the ability to sign. It gives the Jets some insulation, Huss, for sure. But I don't think that the fact that they have a 36-year-old Luke Schenn under contract for one more year would prevent you from offering Neil Pionk a contract, because what we've been talking about Neil Pionk all year is still accurate. He is a culture carrier on that team. He's a part of the fabric of the organization. He wants to be around here. Now, the insulation and insurance policy is important to have in case you're not comfortable as the Winnipeg Jets going to a number that Neil Pionk and his camp may want. But I don't think that it precludes them. One thing is not connected to the other. The Jets needed a guy that has size and can clear the front of the net and plays a physical game and helps the penalty kill, whether Neil Pionk is here or not. And if Neil Pionk is not here, the Jets will still have to add a top four defenseman in order to fill that hole, because Solomonson is probably at least 2 years away from being ready to fill a top four role, at least for me. Now, you could argue that Schenn slides in there, but I don't see this as the Jets seeing a diminished value in the potential of having Neil Pionk around. I asked Neil Pionk if there was anything had happened during Four Nations. He said nothing to report. Now, does that mean I assume there were talks, much like when I talked to Alex Iafallo this week, Huss.
I just wanted to bring that up with you.
He made it clear that he wants to be around and that there have been talks. Now, what I didn't get into in the article, Huss, and is what you and I and everyone in the fan base is curious. I mentioned Vladislav Namestnikov's extension for 2 years at $3 million. Their age is very similar. I mean, Alex Iafallo is making $4 right now. I mean, is he making $4 next year and moving forward? I'm not sure, but I think it might be somewhere in between that $3 and $4 million range. But at the same time, if you're the Jets, you're saying, well, Vlad Namestnikov's the second line center and Iafallo is a guy in the fourth line that can play in the third line, or the second line plays in the penalty kill. I think their usage is similar, even though someone on the depth chart looks at the roles and says, well, Namestnikov's only making $3, Iafallo's going to make less. I don't see that being the case at all. I don't see Iafallo being under $3 million, but I don't necessarily know that he's going to be at $4 million either. And so then ultimately, Alex Iafallo wants to be here, loves the outdoors, loves the fit, loves the organization, everything about that. But at the same time, I don't see him signing for 2.5. So without knowing what the offers have been, I mean, the only reason, this is very simple, Huss. The reason that the extension hasn't been signed is because they haven't got to the number or met in the middle, right? I mean, otherwise the deal would be signed. If the team wants him, clearly, because they're offering him contract in negotiations and the player wants to be there, they got to bridge the gap at some point.
Yeah, it is funny. Yeah, you mentioned that. Like, Vlad is 31 and Alex Iafallo is 30. Mm-hmm. Now, they're both late birthdays. So basically, Vlad's got a 1 year on him. I was so happy to read that. I mean, this is just me personally. I
know you're a huge Iafallo guy.
And more as we get into as the team does well, as the team is in these high leverage games like we're seeing tomorrow, he's a guy that is making a difference with his stick defensively. I mean, what he does on both special teams units. And mark my words, there will be a time probably in the playoffs where, due to a myriad of factors, we're seeing Alex Iafallo playing higher up in the lineup. Now, it could be injuries, it could be performance. He is a guy that can lean on it. So I would love to see him get that extension and be a part of this moving forward, because I think he quietly, as much as we focus so much in on Velarde as the key piece of that Pierre-Luc Dubois deal, you cannot talk about that deal without mentioning what Iafallo has done in the bottom six on the special teams. And again, part of the culture too, like having guys come from LA to Winnipeg and decide, you know what, this is a great place to play and this is a great team, I think is big for the organization as well. And he's very, very well liked. So that is a really good development, and we'll stay on top of that. Anything else on tomorrow night's game before we bid you adieu? Got to take advantage of the fact that Rupi Hintz is out, Miro Heiskanen is out. That team might not look the same come playoff time, but still a pretty formidable lineup when you add Big Mikko Rantanen into the mix.
Yeah, no doubt. And I mean, just quickly on the Jets, Huss, I mean, we've got through the segment without getting to the second line, mostly without mentioning Nemesnikov. Very important for Vlad Nemesnikov to get the goal the other day. For me, Huss, he had been playing well, but, as a second line center, 8 games without a point is too many at this time of the year. Cole Perfetti playing great. Huss, this was something that we saw was trending, but Cole also needed to get the offensive, side of his game to another level. I've loved the way that he's playing. His compete level, absolutely outstanding, really battling, getting to the hard areas, and he is at a really good place. I think that line is really chugging right now. I would say right now the Jets' third line needs to elevate a little bit, Huss, for me. I think they're
What
playing
about the number one line?
Yeah, I mean, Kyle Connor's still getting a ton of points. I don't think he's been scoring as much, Huss. I mean,
they just have seemed to be, off a little bit, I think might be the best way. I mean, they spent a lot of time without the puck against the Rangers. I mean, if you look at a lot of the numbers, I mean, listen, these guys are always going to get theirs on the power play, but at 5-on-5, I don't want to say they've taken a step back post Four Nations, but I do think that we're not seeing the line that was tearing up the league the way they were beforehand really consistently for the last couple weeks.
Yeah, I mean that's fair, but I mean you have a 80 point, 81 point, or 82 point player. You have a high 70s, and then you have Gabe Vilardi 27 tucks and 60 points. I mean, it's hard to argue that the top line.
Where I'm at, I've really loved what the second line has done, and when you're getting that many chances and you're doing what they've been doing, it's going to come, and it did on Tuesday. I think that listen, I'm not sitting here bitching about the top line. I'm just saying that their standard has been very high, and it needs to be. That's why they are where they are in the standings. And a big game tomorrow night for those guys would go a long way to helping this team win, because we know how much they play.
Yeah, bang on, Huss. I mean, when you're in the conversation of being one of the best lines in the NHL, that means that the standard is incredibly high. Do I think they've been the best line in the NHL in the last 2 weeks, like you just said? Of course not. I mean, they're not operating at that same peak level. Now, I would say they've found a way to chip in other ways. Do I think that they need to get back to the sort of that churning style that makes them their most effective? Yes, that is what they do best. I mean, they also can score off the rush, but Huss, the game gets harder this time of year. I expect those guys to elevate now down the stretch. They know the importance of the game, and I expect them to have a big game against Dallas. But yeah, I mean, I think that they needed to elevate a little bit, but right now, the third line also needs to get going a little more. Adam Lowry is obviously producing. Nino has gone a little bit quiet in terms of his offensive production, especially on the goal scoring side, but I think I've seen strides that are being taken by him. But again, the reason we're talking about the third line needing to play a little better, especially against Dallas on Friday, is because we talked about them as being the best line in the NHL, or best third line in the NHL, for a good chunk of the season when the injuries weren't happening. But at the same time, they're still getting contributions. Adam Lowry has been excellent. One shy of his career high with 16 left. So I'm pretty sure we can bet the over on 15, Huss, on that one, on the Coolbet lines. That seems like a pretty safe one. I don't think you'd be making a lot of money on that one. But again, I think the Jets have done an excellent job for a long stretch of this year. And I think that, for them, the biggest thing for them to want to have long range success during the stretch drive is as simple as it has been from the very beginning. When their top two lines are rolling and their bottom six is also going, they are an incredibly difficult team to beat. Now, it's incredibly hard to have all four lines playing at peak efficiency at this time of the year, but at the same time, they have the ability to do so. And like I said, the other day, I thought all three pairings were very good. The Jets as a whole were very good. And I understand some people maybe didn't love the game, but I thought that had playoff vibes to it. They were playing against a team that is fighting for its life, played incredibly hard. It was a physical game. Some scrums, lots of action around the goalie. You got goalie interference going like it's going out of style. 2 penalties at each end. 1 goal taken off the board. I mean, it was a fun game. I mean, it was like, what did you think? Games, I mean, it was an intense game.
Oh, listen, it was, and I'll kind of say that ever since the deadline. I can't really remember the Philly game as much, but I mean, the New Jersey game was a lot more physical than I'd expected. Carolina makes you earn every inch of ice, and they did last night. So again, and we're going to see these games ramp up as we get closer to the playoffs. Tomorrow should certainly be a big part of that. Kenny, thank you as always. We will look forward to everything you've got coming up along with Mike and the Winnipeg Free Press, and a big one tomorrow night at Canada Life Center. Enjoy the game and have a great weekend.
Yeah, you as well, my friend. And sorry, I didn't answer your question about Rantanen. I think Rantanen will be a very good fit with Dallas. Much better fit maybe than Carolina in terms of the style and structure. Big-bodied guy who is difficult to defend and knows how to score. So not that he doesn't. And again, I also, I'm kind of with Kevin Sawyer. In the 1-for-1, you're not going to. No one is going to say Logan Stankoven is a better player than Mikko Rantanen. But what you're looking at is 8 years plus of Stankoven versus 2 months of Rantanen. So I love the way that Stankoven played. Seth Jarvis, probably the best player on the ice the other day, the Winnipegger on Sunday. But yeah, I expect Rantanen to be a factor with the Stars. But the Jets are going to be hungry. They're going to be ready for this game, and I expect it's going to be a real doozy. So enjoy the visit with Finker, and we'll talk to you next week, my friend.
You bet. Thanks so much, Ken Wiebe. You know where to find him, gang, at Wiebe's World on X and in the pages of the Winnipeg Free Press. Excuse me. Hey, just before we bring in Dan Fink on the road, Moose are in Chicago tonight. Let's get to fan feedback, brought to you by fansfirst.ca, your number one spot for buying and selling Winnipeg tickets on the resale market with no added fees. What you see is what you pay when you're going to fansfirst.ca. Now, Remis dropped in a poll we've been talking about all day. The magnitude of tomorrow's game. How big is tomorrow's Jets Stars game? The biggest game of the season. 43%. Huge, but not the biggest. 40%. Important, but just another game. 14%. And then, it's not even playoffs. Only 1% dropping in there. Everyone realizes this is a huge one. Another great reason to pack this place tomorrow and bring a playoff-level atmosphere in the building for the Jets and the Dallas Stars. Give us your thoughts in the chat and at Sports Talk WPG on all your socials. For Fans First, fan feedback, fansfirst.ca, by fans, for fans. No fees. All right, let's bring in the Fink, who is on the road as the Moose look to get back at it tonight in Chicago against the Wolves. Dan, what's going on? Thanks for doing this. Appreciate your patience as we finished up with Kenny there. What's going on?
Oh, just getting ready for, as you said, a big road trip here for the Moose. It's a stretch of playing 7 of 9 games away from home. They're going to spend all of a couple of days on home ice in this stretch, so it's essentially a 9-game road swing for the Moose, and they're going to have to dig deep here as the injuries continue to mount, and you get down to that stage of the season now where if you're really on a nice edge with the ground that the Moose need to make up here. So should be an exciting week of hockey.
Yeah, you mentioned, not a great spot. The Moose right now tied with Iowa at the bottom of the Western Conference right now with a lot of ground to make up. And, the challenge has gotten that much more difficult. I saw someone asking when Chiprikov's getting called up. Well, it's not going to be this year. He's out. Parker Ford's now. Oh, what can you tell us about Ford's situation? And just give us a little update on the infirmary, which has been growing over the last few weeks.
Yeah, Parker Ford's weeks now into missing his time, and tough to say when he would be back. I guess Coach Morrison he gave a timeline rather than saying he was out for the season. So I think his return might be predicated on the Moose making the postseason. But certainly itching to get back on the ice, and actually did skate a little bit. Has his hand in a cast, but did skate a little bit the other day. So he's able to kind of stay active despite the injury. So obviously those are two very big ones. Chaz Lucius still no updates there, dealing with a medical condition that was requiring some testing. So no real updates there. Actually, Janssen Fjallby missing a little time here after he blocked a shot and left the game the other day. Ryan Chizowski is going to miss some time after he was crunched in against the boards. Had obviously come join the team and was filling in on that fourth line. Where am I at now as we continue to roll through them?
It's a long list.
Yeah, the defense is looking good right now, but that forward group is pretty beat up, as well as So the Moose bringing in Jamie Engelbert from the ECHL yesterday. Looks like he's going to make his American Hockey League debut tonight. So that kind of tells you where the Moose are at right now, as they're bringing in guys right now like Colson Gengenbach, who made his debut the other night. So there's a lot of players getting into the lineup right now, but we've seen players stepping up over the last little bit, and the Moose have been cruising around that 500 mark despite all these injuries that continue to pile up on top of them. So it really has been a resilient segment of the season for Manitoba. But in talking to Ashton Sautner today, they know 500, it's a lot better than where they were at, but it's not going to cut it if they want to make the playoffs. They need to go on a bit of a run.
Yeah, like I wanted to ask you just about the vibe around the team. I mean, it's easy to feel sorry for yourself and get down. Last year was the perfect example of a team that had an opportunity, and some weaker teams would have folded, and they did the exact opposite, and incredibly willed their way back in with a great second half and new year into the playoffs. So, I mean, some of these players have been through something like this before, but how are they keeping the spirits up? I mean, certainly I think you've seen some very, to use the word spirited performances in the last few times out for Manitoba.
Yeah, I mean, last year was interesting. I think we spoke right before that run happened, and the Moose were, because the division was struggling so much that season, not that far out. And I think they were about as far out right now as they were then. So they've made up, I think since January 1st, they've made up 5-6 points on the Rockford Ice Hogs. Obviously, that's taken them a while to chip away at, as Rockford's kind of got themselves sorted out a little bit here over the last little bit. But you hear the players talking. This is what we need to do. They're not looking at it like, oh, we're way too far back, it's insurmountable. They know exactly what they need to do to give themselves an opportunity. It starts in this road swing. Obviously, they've got the Chicago Wolves today, and that's been a tough matchup for them so far this season. They lost the previous 2 games in Allstate Arena, and then they've got the Iowa Wild, who they're jockeying with for position right now, and really struggled to score last week. So there's a team there that has struggled over the last little bit that the Moose will be looking to pick up at least a split there if they can't pick up a win here in Chicago. It's kind of one of those trips that you're looking at, well, you kind of need 3 out of the 4 wins, something like that. But the imperative one comes against the Rockford Ice Hogs. Moose might be 10 points back right now, Huss, but they play the Rockford Ice Hogs 3 times. That makes it very possible. Because you win those 3 games, now it's a 4-point spread, and you've got yourselves a chance. Now you need some help still, yes, but if you can win those 3 games against Rockford, all bets are off. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. They're going to play the Ice Hogs those 3 times over the next couple of weeks here on these road swings. So those are the absolutely crucial games, but every point so important. So the Moose, they did well. They lost a few games over the last little bit, kind of alternating wins and losses, but were able to pick up points in overtime, things like that. So chipping away, and the team knows that. And I think as a result, because they've been able to fight their way kind of back into the fight, not necessarily right on knocking on the door yet, but they've been able to put themselves in a position where they have an opportunity. I think you're seeing a team that the spirits are high, they're focused, they know what they need to do, and looking forward to seeing if they can pull it off here over these next couple of weeks.
Finker, I want to ask you about a couple of the Jet top prospects. Let's start on the blue line with Elias Salmonson. Represented the team at the All-Star game, missed some time before that. How's he been since he returned? And, for folks that haven't seen a lot of Elias, how would you categorize his season overall, first in North America?
I think you got to be pretty happy with what you've seen from Elias Salamonson. Obviously, very unfortunate that he missed as much time as he did. Otherwise, who knows what we're talking about when it comes to the end of his season. Maybe he's jockeying for position for some of those rookie awards, things like that. But he's just been so steady for the Moose, and he's been able to contribute offensively, which is something that I don't know that I was expecting to see from him as much. But he had those opportunities early on in the season on the power play. And of course, when Dylan Coghlan hasn't been with the team, he's been running that unit. He's got 12 power play points on the season, so he's been very solid in that regard, tied with Brad Lambert for the team lead in those power play points. So for Salamonson, I think there's a little more offense there than I was expecting. Who knows if that translates to the next level? That's always the question, especially for defensemen. But you know what? He's come in. He's learned a lot about the game. Eric Dubois was talking a week or two ago about how he'd heard about how he did have some sandpaper and some nastiness to his game playing in Sweden. Hadn't necessarily seen that here in the AHL, but he's starting to see that come into his game as Salamonson gets more and more comfortable playing in North America. So it's been certainly a lot of fun to watch him play, and you forget how young he is. It's really impressive to see just how confident, how poised he is with that puck, and just he keeps everything quiet. There's not a whole ton going around on his side of the ice when he's out there defensively. So it's been a lot of fun to watch him grow as a player in this first season in North America.
He's certainly an exciting part of the Jets' future. And another guy that's thought to be that is Brad Lambert. Now, Lambert had 21 goals last year, 55 points. He is tied for the team lead in scoring, but this team has had a tough time scoring goals this year, and he only has 4 this year. I mean, has this been a challenge of a year for Brad? I mean, has it been a little bit that the team just hasn't been clicking, playing with different guys? I mean, where's his game at right now? And have there been some setbacks for him this season?
I think you could probably take things from every bucket there, Huss. I mean, obviously the Moose have struggled to score. I don't know if I've ever seen a team as snake bitten as the Moose were, especially in December there, where it just seemed like nothing was going in. And when you look at Lambert, I mean, he's a guy who, as a skilled player, is going to pick up points on the power play. Well, the Moose power play really struggled in the first half of the season. It's been so much better lately. It's actually been very good over the last run of games now, going on about the past 15. So they seem to have sorted things out there, coincidentally lining up with Dylan Coghlan joined the team. So when you look at Lambert's game and his numbers, so you kind of look at those, the overall team scoring, you look at the power play numbers, so it's not going to be as easy for him as it was last season. I think he meshed pretty well with some of the players that he played with last season, and maybe just didn't get that rhythm going this season. So, and I think we've seen him have some bad luck too. I mean, in Toronto a couple weeks ago, fires one home on the power play, big sell. You could tell it was a big one for him. He had just scored a few games ago. Maybe he was going to get hot. Goal gets waved off on, in my opinion, an absolutely phantom goaltender interference penalty. And he's got to be looking at that going, what do I got to do to get some goals on the board? So I think it's been a challenge that way for him, but that's not necessarily a bad thing for a player to go through that adversity. I mean, you learn so much from struggling through and climbing over these obstacles. So there's value there too. And I think there's been a lot of development in that regard. So interesting to see how his season finishes up here over the next few games of the regular season and going on forward. So for Lambert, I think there's been a lot of learning going on this season.
Dan, always great catching up. Have a great call tonight, and good luck to the squad, and enjoy this time on the road. We'll catch up again next week or the week after, and hopefully we'll have a team that can get on a bit of a roll and can see if they might be able to barge back into the playoff picture like they did last season.
Yeah, things should start to clarify pretty quick for the Moose, or just get even murkier, really. So we'll see if they can make things real interesting down the stretch here. Really looking forward to seeing if they can put together a little run.
Nice of you to join us today, pal. Thanks for doing this.
Talk to you soon, Huss.
All right, there is Dan Fink on the road, Moose tonight in Chicago. And then from there on to Iowa. 2 big games against Iowa. Who's right where the Moose are. They're tied right now in the standings. And then one of those games against the Rockford Ice Hogs that the Moose absolutely have to have. Great time to go on a winning streak. Hopefully they'll get one. They'll get one tonight. All right, we're going to welcome in Skylar Park in just a moment. Do want to remind you that best place to catch the Winnipeg Jets if you're not in the barn is your local Boston Pizza. Picker player contests every game. Ice cold schooners, world famous BP wings, gourmet pizzas, and more. And hey, if you are staying at home, you can always get the great taste of Boston Pizza by ordering online at bostonpizza.com. Shout out to Royal Sports, of course. We know what the team is right now. We're getting ready for playoffs. Now it's time to start working on your whites, and no better place to start that search than Royal Sports with the biggest selection of Winnipeg Jets merchandise you'll find anywhere, not to mention the entire National Hockey League. Tons of Bomber gear coming in, some really sweet stuff from New Era in time for the upcoming season. And of course, that incredible hat wall with some of the most unique color styles I've seen for Jets hats ever. One-off collabs with New Era that you can only find at Royal Sports. And especially if you want to get something nice and Jets themed for St. Patrick's Day, some really cool green ones that are there and probably going to be going soon this weekend. So get on down to Royal Sports. Check out all that cool stuff on the King Skate, Snow, and Surf side. You can follow them on Instagram for the latest merchandise drops and sale information at Royal Sports Winnipeg on Insta. And, of course, pop down and see them in person at 750 Pembina Highway. Now, I mentioned Boston Pizza is great for all Jet games. A week today, we're going to be out at Garden City Boston Pizza on McPhillips for a WST watch party with Little Brown Jug, like we did earlier this season for that Detroit game, and pack the Polo Park Boston Pizza. Would love to see you join us. We'll have some special prizing and contests in between periods with some great stuff from Little Brown Jug and more. We'll be able to enjoy some 1919s, which are going to be on tap at BP Garden City, as BP in many places look to go a little bit more local. And what better than that than enjoying the favorite local beer of Winnipeggers for a number of years, Little Brown Jug. So a week today, 8 p.m., Jets Oilers. Make a plan to join us at BP McPhillips out in Garden City for that event. All right, speaking of Little Brown Jug, a big cheers to all of you from Little Brown Jug, and then we'll welcome in Skylar Park.
We're not just for the showboats or the champions. We're here for the good ones, the ones who work hard and show up for others, not to get recognized, but because it's the right thing to do. We'd like to think that our good intentions show up in our beer. We keep working to perfect it, not because we want fame or fanfare, but because you deserve it. 1919, the good you deserve.
All right, this one has been a long time coming. It is an absolute pleasure to welcome in Winnipeg's own Olympic bronze medalist, Skylar Park, to the program. Skylar, what is up? It's so great to have you on the show.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here. I know we've been chatting for a while, so.
Well, I know you've been very busy since you became an Olympic medalist. And heck, you're busy earlier this week down at the women's sport game at the Jets. How was that?
It was an honor, I think, to be able to drop the puck in honor of celebrating, women in sport. And to be there alongside some other incredible women. It was so much fun. And, the Jets are on a great run right now, so it's even more exciting. And to just see Winnipeg there and get behind the whole community and the whole city was really fun.
It was, no, listen, it was a great night. It was great to have you there and all the other women that were a part of the event. And, of course, a big win for the crowd, for the team in front of a great crowd. There's the pick for those of you watching on YouTube. So everyone left home happy. I imagine since that medal was placed around your neck, life has been a little bit different than it was before. What have the last few months been like for you?
It's definitely been a little bit different, but also exactly the same at the same time. So I've obviously had some incredible opportunities. Like you said, I was just dropping the puck at the Jets game and had some other cool things that I've been able to be a part of since Paris. But I'm still, still living in Winnipeg, still training with my brothers and getting beat up once in a while. So, the day-to-day is the same, but very, very cool opportunities have presented themselves, which I'm very grateful for as well.
The journey that you went on to becoming to get on the podium at the Olympics was a long one. Now that you're a few months removed from getting it, has it like do you look back and reflect on all the work that went in to get there, or considering where you are in your career, is that something that almost drives you more and more when you're working out with your brothers to keep going and get back on that podium a couple spots higher?
I think it's both at the same time. I think obviously after the medal, you take some time to reflect on the journey thus far. And I mean, it wasn't an easy journey getting to the Olympics. There was so much that myself as well as my family had to overcome, especially within that last year leading up. But, you know, we made it and we were able to get a spot on that podium. But at the same time, it is so motivating to have experienced a little bit of glory out of games and to just that feeling. I think as athletes, we chase that feeling. And so to have experienced that, it's definitely motivating me in practice now and in my competitions that I've had thus far to start the year, of wanting to experience that again and to get back on the podium. And like you said, a few steps higher for sure.
You know, the profile for Olympic athletes goes through the roof around the event. And obviously with your success, you've got some more endorsements we'll see on TV and some commercials and stuff like that. Has it changed? Did you get a few more people noticing you when you're at the grocery store or out and about town?
I think a little bit as soon as I came back from the Olympics. I mean, I think it was so fresh and everyone was so excited. And a little bit so now, but it's truly an honor. And I think Winnipeg is such a small community and it's so special to be from Winnipeg, and I'm such a proud Winnipegger. And so to see the whole city kind of rally behind me and to feel that love and support from the whole city when I came home was so special. And to hear how everyone had a little piece of that journey was very cool.
You know, one of the things that really resonated with me in hearing you speak about winning the medal at the Olympic Games was how many people have a hand in an Olympic athlete. We'll get to some of that with the RBC training ground in a minute, but for you specifically, just for our listeners that might not be familiar, can you tell us a little bit about your team, if you will? You mentioned your brothers, your father. I mean, this has been really a family affair for a long time leading up to, for a Taekwondo athlete, the biggest event every 4 years in the Olympic Games.
It truly does take a village. I mean, they say that all the time. And I started Taekwondo crawling around on my parents' Taekwondo school at the Town Park Academy in Winnipeg. And so to go from that little girl who was crawling around the mats and stepped into her first competition at 2 years old, and to have my parents and my family's support throughout the entire way, I mean, they play such a huge role. My dad, my coach, you know, my brothers, my training partners, my mom, our manager, and just my entire extended family. I mean, we're all black belts in the family. We all do Taekwondo together. And so it's truly been such a team effort. Not only my family, but I have an incredible support from the Taekwondo community at our Taekwondo school, as well as just my entire support staff. I mean, there's so much that goes into it. My nutritionist, my sports psychologist, my physiologist, there's so many people that play a huge role in allowing us as athletes to succeed.
How big is the Taekwondo community here in Winnipeg? And has it grown, or have we seen a little bit of an influx of some younger people that want to get into it after what you were able to do at the Olympic Games?
I mean, we have an incredible community at our Taekwondo school of so many young athletes, so many older athletes, adults who participate in our programming. And so it's incredible to get to share my experiences with them and just get to coach them now and share that medal and bring it back home. I think there's a few people who've come in and said they saw me on TV at the Olympics and wanted to try Taekwondo. So, I mean, it's an honor to share the sport. And that's something that I'm very passionate about as well, because the sport has given me so much. And so any opportunity to share that with others is something that I'm very proud to do.
Well, you know, as we look to have more Skylar Parks on the podiums of Olympic Games in the future, RBC has put together this training ground program. And I mean, you kind of grew up with it. I mean, you were born into Taekwondo, but I'm sure other people, especially sports that might not be as big as others, have different people finding very unique ways into even trying it for the first time. And it seems like this RBC training ground program is looking to identify some really quality Canadian athletes that might not have had the opportunity to really be exposed to something that they could excel in. Tell us a little bit more about this.
Yeah, RBC Training Ground is an incredible program. I mean, RBC goal is to find and generation of Olympic athletes as well as Olympic medalists. We've seen it happen before. RBC has sent so many athletes to the Olympics through this program. We've won medals through this program. And so it's incredible. I mean, so essentially there's an event happening in Winnipeg this Saturday. And so any athletes between the age of 14 to 25 can come out for free. It's a free event. So they will be tested in strength, power, speed, and endurance. And based on those testing results, the national sport organizations will kind of look at the results and see if there's athletes that are best suited for their sport. So I believe there's 15 national sport organizations present and going to be scouting out athletes and looking for athletes. So, I mean, if you have Olympic dreams and you're athletic and you have big goals, I think this is an incredible program. Even if you don't have big goals and you just want to try it out and see what happens, that's also incredible too. So there's so many athletes who've come in from this program and been so successful at Olympic Games, and that's why I'm so proud to be a part of it.
Well, and I'm sure you, as being an Olympian, I mean, you meet your teammates, on Team Canada, with the Olympic ceremonies and things like that. And the stories of all these athletes are so different. I mean, there are the Skylar Parks that have been doing it since they were talking, but many other of the great Olympic stories are ones of people that sort of just fell into an opportunity and realized, I'm actually really good at this.
Exactly. I mean, I've been fortunate, like we talked about. I kind of was born into the sport and grew into it and took to it very well and was able to be successful in the sport. But some athletes are really athletic and they have big goals, but they don't quite know where to put those athletic abilities. And so we have athletes, a good friend of mine, Kelsey Mitchell. I mean, she started as a soccer player. She went to RBC training ground. She was put on a cycling bike and she won an Olympic gold medal a few years later. So you never know truly what can happen. And that's the exciting thing about it.
Yeah, I know we've seen some great stories in speed skating and cycling. I'm pretty sure Jesse Lumsden was playing for the Hamilton Tiger Cats in the CFL, and in the summer got into the bobsled and ended up being an Olympic bobsledder. So it's great. Now, the website for this, if you want more information on it, gang, rbctrainingground.ca. And we're doing this weekend, Skylar, right here in Winnipeg, Duckworth. Things get going at 9:30 a.m. I mean, other than going, obviously, for the information at the, at the website for people that should give all the details. Anything else people should need to know or prepare for?
Yeah, I think just to reiterate again, it is a free event. So you can register, like you said, at rbctrainingground.ca, or you can show up on the day and register there in person. My brothers, as well as myself, will be there cheering you all on. And it's a great environment. And just to tell all the athletes, really go in there with an open mind, try your best, give it your all, and you never know what can happen. So I'm excited.
So RBC Training Ground, let's find some new Winnipeg Olympians this weekend. Duckworth Center, starting at 9:30. The website is rbctrainingground.ca. Hey, before we go, fill us in on where you're at and what you're up to now. I mean, I'm not as familiar with the taekwondo schedule. We know when the Olympic Games are, and we hear, Skylar won something again. But where are you at? How's the season work? Are you in full training? Are you competing right now? And what's next for you?
We have 3 events back to back, kind of within a week and a half earlier in the year in the beginning of February. So we were able to compete at those 3 events. At one of them, I qualified my slot to the World Championships for this year. So that'll be in November in China. So kind of just preparing for that. I mean, we have a few events in between now and then. So deep in training, working hard and excited for this season for sure.
How much, in an average year, how much traveling do you do?
We do a lot. We're typically traveling once a month, whether usually our events are overseas, so in Europe or Asia or South America. So, I mean, it really depends, but it's a lot of traveling for sure. But I'm grateful to do it with family. And
right now, back in camp with family, training as always, and getting ready for that next trip and next competition.
Training in Winnipeg with my brothers and my dad, yes.
Gotta love it. Hey, Skylar, congratulations again. Really appreciate you jumping on, and good luck to everyone who's going to go see what they're made of at RBC Training Ground on the weekend. It was a real pleasure having you on. Hopefully we can do this again sometime soon.
Yes, thank you so much for having me. We'll chat soon.
Appreciate it. All right. Oh, it was great to have Skylar on. What a great young woman she is, and big things in store. One Olympic medal down, and I have a feeling we'll be seeing her in the next Olympics as well. But as we mentioned, if you or maybe someone in your family has some Olympic dreams, check out the event this weekend. Again, you can go to the website rbctrainingground.ca for all the information, and it's Saturday starting at 9 a.m. at the U of W Duckworth Center. All right, we will get to the Coolbet lines in a minute. And I guess we're a few weeks away from golf season in Winnipeg. Could use a nice blast of teens weather to get all this snow gone. But cannot wait to get back out to Breezy Bend this year. See Corey and the gang. I'm going to play more this year. I'm convinced of it. But let's do our first Breezy Bend leader report and golf report of the year, because it is the players. This is sort of when it feels like golf season is officially here. We'll get the Masters next month, but the Players Championship, which is the biggest event of the year on the PGA Tour, a star-studded lineup. And man, we've had a little bit of everything today out at TPC Sawgrass. Lucas Glover birdied his final 4 holes today, including the Island Green of TPC Sawgrass, including that nasty 18th hole. He's at 6 under par with a 66. Now, the chef is cooking. Minwoo Lee is 5 under par through 10 today. We've seen some much better scores in the afternoon for the most part than we did see in the morning. And Camilo Villegas, 5 under through 8. So great starts for those two. A bunch of 4 unders, including, oh my guy, Akshay Bhatia. Of course, I don't bet him this week. He's 4 under through 7. Aaron Rai also 4 under. The group at 3 under includes Scotty Scheffler, who is playing this afternoon. They're finished their first 9 holes, and he's 3 under. 2-time defending champ, looking for a three-peat. Sepp Straka, man, he's been good over the last month or so. He's 2 under. Jordan Spieth, 2 under. A typical Spieth round, birdies, bogeys, everything in between. And Willie Zalatoris at 2 under, really nice to see. As we continue down the leaderboard, Ludwig Åberg, 1 under par. Canadian Corey Connors, 1 under par. Rory McIlroy's at 1 under along with Xander. So that's the group. It's Rory, Xander, and Scheffler. Rory and Xander are 1 under. Scotty is 3 under. Canadian Taylor Pendrith, 1 under. Tommy Fleetwood and Patrick Cantlay, 1 under. Adam Hadwin is also 1 under right now. And then we move down. A couple other guys to note, guy that I'm on, Wyndham Clark, Shane Lowry, they're both even. Russell Henley, Maverick McNeely finished even. But if we go all the way down, let me just tell you about my tale of disaster. Remis, click on Justin Thomas. He's down at 6 over par. Woke up today, did a couple things, turned the TV on. JT was 2 under par. He started on the back 9, 2 under, playing the 17th hole. Of course, he puts the first one in the water, gets back on 2 putts, double bogey. Follows that up with a triple bogey immediately. Then, as he continued, he had 3 pars and then went bogey, double, bogey, bogey. He was 10 over par from his 8th hole to his 16th hole. Now, credit to JT, he's a fighter, did go birdie to finish up. But a 6 over par round that included 4 birdies. Very, very tough day. A couple of other disastrous rounds today. Thomas Detry, Max Homa, 7 over, and Victor Hovland. Man, it's crazy how far he's fallen right now. He's lost 80, 8 over today. Matt Fitzpatrick, 6 over as well, former major winner. So they're just getting going. It'll be a great afternoon. It's on the Golf Channel if you want to watch this final, the main grouping this afternoon. Great coverage on the PGA website as well. So there you have it, our first Breezy Bend golf report of the year for the players. And yes, I did have JT on my DraftKings team, which is going to absolutely nuke it before I even get going. Listen, we're gonna get to the Coolbet lines in just a minute. But an unbelievable super chat from T. Konopoli.
Yeah, I think they're talking about Taekwondo and martial arts. So in the chat with Skylar on. So the chat really, I guess Tijuana Pauly started telling some stories.
Listen to this, folks. I've got to read this for podcast listeners. Rick Ferracci, who was the villain in Van Damme Time Cop, once broke Guinness record at Bomber Game in the 80s, used to do nunchucks around my head, and you could hear wind whistling. Also sliced grapes on my neck with the sword on Saki. That sounds dangerous, Paulie. Maybe that explains a few things.
Okay, wait. I think I found the video of this on YouTube. This is a halftime show. This is very clearly Winnipeg Stadium. Hold on. This is someone like from the crowd recording it. Crazy.
Let's check this out. We're going to do a little bit of, we are YouTube guys, of course. By the way, subscribe to the YouTube channel if you haven't already. And now, what is the title? This is some sort of a nunchuck competition?
I don't know.
Oh,
what
here
is,
he is.
I don't know what is going on in this video.
Buddies.
This is crazy.
The old Winnipeg Stadium.
I mean, you can tell that turf and the wall, and you can see all the stuff behind.
So what exactly is he going to do? He's about to break all these bricks? Yeah, move down
there's
a little bit.
There's a Buzz and Boomer sighting later on. Did he do it?
So this is definitely the Bomber.
Is this after? Okay, wait, this looks like after. I'm scrolling through here. Here, I'll figure it. You do the lines. I'll try to figure this.
Yeah, okay. Let's get over to the Coolbet lines. I'd love to kind of went through. My focus right now is on the players. But we do have some big games tonight in the NHL. Vegas is in Columbus. Vegas minus 189. Columbus could really use that home win, and they've been great at home this year. The Sens minus 196 favorites against Boston as they look to strengthen their grip on the first wild card. Tampa's in Philly. Tampa minus 154. Philly plus 130. The Blues minus 131 favorites in Pittsburgh. Panthers Leafs, that'll be a good one tonight. Leafs a home underdog plus 115. Panthers minus 135. No Ekblad due to his suspension. No Matt Tkachuk. Brad Marchand still not playing. We got to pick them in Minnesota between the Rangers and the Wild. And the Kings minus 130 favorites over the Washington Capitals. Now, we do have our partner parlay for tonight. We're taking the Sens over the Bruins, Rangers over the Wild, and Kings over the Capitals. That is boosted to plus 475. The super boost tonight is a Mitch Marner point and a Connor McDavid point. That's boosted to plus 107. I got on that 2 days ago when it was Draisaitl and Mitch. Seemed like free money, and it was. And how about this? The still got it combo. Crosby to get an assist. Ovi to score. Plus 449 there. Some other great combos available at the top of the main page. The Lamplighters tonight. Draisaitl, Matthews, and Pasternak all to score. Plus 939. And who are our defensemen on points from the point? Werenski, Hedman, Bouchard. Plus 388 for those three players to score. Oh, and Patty's gotten into it. We haven't got a Patty knows puck for a while. Willie Nylander to get a point. Ovi over 3.5 shots. I think I'll have to ride with Patty on that one as well. And we got a DGen Den parlay with a bunch of shooters as well. It's all there for you at Coolbet. We'll have updated odds on the players once the round is completed and matchups for tomorrow. And, of course, tomorrow night. Not on the board yet. This Winnipeg-Dallas game. I am looking at some advanced lines, and it seems like the Jets will be a favorite, a slight favorite. Obviously, no Heiskin and no Rupee hints tough for Dallas. And we'll cross our fingers that Neil Pionk and Nikolai Ehlers are able to go tomorrow. Use the promo code WST if you haven't played at Coolbet before. Use the promo code, and we'll give you a 100% bonus up to $200 on your first deposit, which will be great. Oilers also in New Jersey tonight, by the way. Oilers minus 135. Devils plus 115. Dusty was telling me today, Remo on the Lock Shop, that if the Kings beat Washington and the Oilers lose to the Devils after losing to Buffalo, he might not be able to show up for the show tomorrow. It'll be that insane.
Oh, just because like he's scared of like what the chat would be.
People are going crazy already. Like they are not happy right now, and they don't feel that they're ready for the playoffs at all. And frankly, the team hasn't been showing much lately. Well, they did beat Dallas for us on Saturday, which I appreciated.
Like I never believed in a Stanley Cup hangover. That was kind of just like saying that you would use at a narrative, but they've had a Stanley Game 7 hangover. I mean, Leon Draisaitl came into preseason. He's like, guys, we're talking about preseason here. We just played in Game 7 of the Stanley Cup final. And I don't know, I don't want to say like heartbroken, but, when you play in that intensity and you come so close and lose, I certainly think it takes a toll, or, some goaltending concerns there as well. They also, made those moves, letting Holloway and Broberg go to St. Louis, and that did not work out for them at all. I thought they would have
totally avoidable too. Totally avoidable. They could have signed both of those guys to considerably less money deals than St. Louis signed them to. But no, they wanted Arvidsson, Jeff Skinner, Mr. Pressbox Popcorn himself. This would be bad, but I made all those jokes last year that Jeff Skinner made it to 1,000 games in the National Hockey League, has never played in a playoff game.
Yes.
And that might still be the case after this year.
Yeah, and Holloway's got 20 goals, 47 points in 65 games, and everyone's like, wouldn't it be great to have a guy of that skill set at the trade deadline?
They have no secondary scoring. The bottom line hasn't done much. By the way, T. Konopoli.
He's got another super chat.
Were you able to find out the spot?
I found the spot in this video. So
I actually want to see this. He's going to chop things. Let's see this. This is T. Konopoli's buddy. Again, his name is Rick
Paracci. Yeah. He's doing some world record here at a Bomber halftime show. They don't have halftime shows like this anymore, Huss. So he's breaking chop all these boards.
He's breaking every board. Martial arts master. Now he's going back with the left hand.
This is incredible.
This is a piece of Winnipeg sports history.
This is.
Thank you, Paulie, for bringing this to light on today's show. We've had one Olympic bronze medalist and another legendary martial artist from the city, Rick Paracci, who, as he mentioned, fought Jean-Claude Van Damme in the end scene of Time Cop. How many more does he have to do? Like, no doubt he was screwed at the end of this. Whoa.
I'm going to have to throw this on our Instagram here. This is, like, I used to watch Guinness World Records. You don't see this stuff on TV anymore.
I would love to. So this is how long ago? He's still smashing them.
He's been going for a while. I can't imagine how his hands feel.
There it is. The world record.
What a
T. Konopoli, thanks for the super chats, buddy. That was awesome. No, I don't know Rick Paracci. This is all news to me. I had no idea that he was in Time Cop. And I don't know what year. This looks like it's in the 90s. Like this looks like mid 90s. A mid 90s Bomber game to me.
You can see Buzz and Boomer walking around. The Edmonton Eskimos are walking around in the back as well. This is some scene, man.
Oh my God. Yeah, check it out. The neon yellow and neon pink.
Yes.
This is probably like 90, 91, 92 sort of thing. Little chip and pepper, some mullets. What a great video.
Rack says 89. I'm going to throw this in. I might have to throw this in the description.
Yeah, exactly. We also recap the Rick Paracci world record for boards broken at the Bomber game.
Someone uploaded this in 2018. It's only got 296 views. I feel like it should have way more.
Yeah, that's outrageous. Well, T. Conapoli was the one that gave it. Oh, it got to be 80s. Okay, I'll give you late 80s.
Like, who recorded this? Is this from someone bringing their own camera, or was it on the Jumbotron? Like,
maybe this was like the house feed. It actually looks like the house feed.
Yeah, is this the house feed?
Like a camera that was part of the broadcast.
And someone like got the tape? Oh, now it's static.
You know what? Yeah, if you're listening on the podcast and you're wondering what the hell we're talking about, go to the description on our YouTube. Give our show a like and subscribe there. But also, you can go down to the bottom and click on the link to see this incredible world record opponent. Yeah, 89-91. That's sort of what I was thinking.
Yes.
Yeah, and we'll give this one the WST bump.
It's all just like this channel is remembering Rick Ferrari, just like him doing crazy stuff like that.
Yeah, no Rum Hut in the video. The Rum Hut didn't come around until later on. And I can tell you exactly when it was, because it was my buddy Miles Jones, who was the Appleton rep, who did the deal for it. And then they turned that little place where they used to take tickets in for the high school football games into a spot to serve drinks. And then it quickly became an area where so many, particularly young people, would come to meet up with friends at halftime, that they ended up extending the fence back and making it way, way bigger. And at that point, it became the precursor for what the North End Zone is now, which is the biggest party in the city every single time the Winnipeg Blue Bombers play. What a gift by T. Conapoli. Man, we partied after that night. I can only imagine. T. Cona.
Here, that was amazing. T. Conapoli, yeah, bringing it. That's great.
T. Cona, were you part of the entourage on the field in those yellow and pink chip and pepper hoodies, or were you in the stands watching this? And where did you party afterwards? Was it Rookies? Was it the Spike?
I have to bring T. Conapoli like on the show here. This is amazing.
T. Conapoli, I'm gonna come out and have some beers with you in Transcona one of these days. It's been too long since I've been out there. Usually we do some more summer visits, but I think it is about time. Who knows? Maybe tomorrow. Eric Howardchuk's coming into town for the game tomorrow night.
He's here. He's posted on X.
He made it. I knew that he was flying in, and I did see him, Trevor, and the Knott boys, and they all went to the Spike after the last game that they were at. So who knows? Maybe we'll see you on this weekend. But there he is. Big one here tomorrow. Damn right, Eric. Great guy. Howardchuk Strong, by the way. I know we had a lot of people that were asking about those hats. The one that he was wearing, and you've seen a few of them. I think Connor picked one up as well.
Yeah, Scott Westman did.
Yeah, no, nice. Yeah, they are beautiful. I mean, they are high-end hats. I'm not sure what the cost is, but they're worth it. They're as well made. I mean, he's a big golf guy and is in the golf industry, so they obviously had a hookup of one of the top brands to make them. So check that out at Howardchuk Strong. I can't remember whether it's .ca or .com, but I'm sure you'll find it. All right, that's going to do it for us. We got to get this podcast up. Great show today. Thanks to Fink for popping on. Good luck to the Moose tonight. Great stuff with Kenny Wiebe. And, of course, the long-awaited WST debut of Skylar Park, Canadian Taekwondo champion, Olympic bronze medalist, which then somehow took us down a rabbit hole of T. Conapoli's buddy, Rick Ferrari, who fought Jean-Claude Van Damme in Time Cop, but also, as we just discovered, broke the world record for breaking boards at halftime of a Bomber game back in somewhere between 1989 and 1991. Very, very fun show today. And T. Cona has cleared up. Yes, he was on the sidelines and cleaned up splinters off the field. And then we partied at Rick's in Westwood and at the Big A. Oh, the Big A. A little piece of St. James history. Still going. Not the same as it was before, though. I will say that.
I'm looking at Rick Ferracci's IMDb. All like kung fu or martial arts movies. It says Jackie Chan one here. Rumble in the Bronx. I saw that.
What? Love that movie.
Walking Tall. He was on his crew with The Rock, where he just beat people up. All movie, 2004 release. So there's some good movies on here.
Little bit of Winnipeg and Transcona history today, in addition to someone that made history at the Olympic Games in Skylar Park. Anyways, great stuff. We could talk about this for another hour or so, but we do have a duty to get this podcast up. Thanks, everyone, for hanging out with us. Thanks to the sponsors that make the show happen each and every day. And you all have a great evening, and join us tomorrow. Big game day edition before Jets and Stars tomorrow night. And I know we haven't talked a lot of NFL this week, but Axel will come on and take us all around the wild first week of free agency in the National Football League as well. For Michael Remis, I'm Andrew Paterson. Tell a friend about Winnipeg Sports Talk and how they can find us, and join us tomorrow at 1 p.m. to get ready for the battle for the top of the Central Division between Winnipeg and the Dallas Stars. Have a good one.
Oh my God! Oh! Shut it down! Let's go home!
Thanks for tuning in to Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Make sure to subscribe on YouTube and your favorite podcast feed at winnipegsportstalk.com.